Welcome, everybody. Today is Saturday. It's May the 14th. I'm Frosty, and this is MogTalk. If you are new to the show, MogTalk is a podcast where the Final Fantasy XIV community comes together to discuss anything and everything in Final Fantasy XIV, from savage raiding to chocobo racing. Today, we will be going on a topic we hit on maybe once or twice before, which is interactions and relationships that occur while raiding. And I had to check and make sure I didn't mute myself. Sometimes I do that. But I had actually a show where I did that, guys, and I had, for like 5 minutes straight, everybody was like, guys, pay attention to chat. You didn't unmute yourself. And I went back and I restarted the show. I just completely restarted it, and we went with it. Might as well. Yeah, why not? But before we jump into it, let me introduce our wonderful guest today. First, we have returning with us for the first time in like a year, a very entertaining and wonderful guide maker, Mizzteq. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I might be a robot today or pixelated, so expect that. Setting the bar low.
That's perfectly fine. I like the bar low because it gives us a little bit more to go for. And I wanted to ask you, before we jumped into our discussion, of course, so how long have you been with your current raid, I guess is the question I wanted to ask.
The core members, I think we've been together since right before this tier. That's probably like the best way to say it. So probably around maybe December of last year, so a few months.
So only a few months you've had really this group together. What about your groups before that? Were you together with those groups for a long time?
Let's see. I started the game once upon a time. That group I think lasted about maybe 6 to 8 months maybe. And then we broke off, started a new group that lasted for like almost a year. So a pretty decent amount of time. And then that was around like Heaven's Word coming out. And then we lasted maybe another 6 months or so. And then now it's the group here.
Okay. I gotcha. Yeah. All right.
So lots of fluctuation, but...
Yeah. That's actually really interesting, because that gives us a little bit different perspective, because I know a little bit about Ark's history here. But let me go ahead and introduce Arkk. Next, of course, we have one of us, our most regular guest returning. A very skilled raider and raid leader, Professor Arkk. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome.
Doing awesome. You're a little bit low there. Hold on. Maybe you weren't low. Try again.
All right. Talking now?
Yeah, you're good. Okay. All right. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Just taking it easy. Built some new computers because our computers were falling apart during raids, so that was fun.
That's
EC was having some weird. We had some weird stuff going on. Like she couldn't load into zones. It was like slower than PS3, and yeah.
You sure that isn't because she was doing PvP and she was getting mad at the people she was matching with and she was hitting her computer?
No.
Okay. She's not an angry gamer?
No, not really, no. It's like a very mild anger at the game. It's like, why is this person not doing this? I'm like, is that your anger? Is that it? That's you raging out right now?
No, I'm just confused. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So I want to ask you the same question, Arkk, real quick. How long have you been with your raid group?
So I first started raid leading in 2.0, and well, let's see here. So I have core members from that group. I have 2 core members from that group who we've been raiding with me for 3 years about. And then we had a couple members leave out, and we around T13, and we have basically been raiding with 2 or 3 other members like that for about 2 years as well. And then after Gordius, we had a lot of people kind of burn out from the game and take a break after we were done the tier. So with this current group that I have now, I've been raiding with them for 6 to 7 months.
Okay.
Yeah, but still have some core members from like 2.0. Like they've been with me the whole time.
That's pretty awesome.
Crazy, yeah. I included Easy with that, but still, it's sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of get to that point to where like you have to default. Oh, yeah, they're always with me no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been raiding with Kerr since I started playing the game, so I mean, that's something, right? But my group has been together for about a year and a half, I think, as well. Or well, not as well, but about a year and a half, for a while. And then we have about 5 members who's been with the group for at least over a year for that course. So I'm pretty proud of that. Of that. All right. So today, this topic is going to be covering situations a lot of people have been running into while raiding with statics. And of course, the core of the group is the players. I don't know why I had such a hard time saying that, but the core of the group is the players, guys. And you may have halfway decent players, but if they won't clear any content if they don't work together properly. And to enjoy the game while raiding, you usually want to enjoy the group you're playing with too. So today we're going to be focusing a little bit on that, kind of how the interactions you have with other players and why that makes a group either a good group or a bad group. And today we will be taking questions. So Kerr is in the chat right now, gathering any questions you guys have, whether it's you want to talk about Mizzteq's hair, Arkk's hair, or anything that's actually about the conversation we're having today. Any of that's good. But to start us off today, I figured I could ask both of you guys. We talked about how long you were with a Static, but I want to talk about your life as a Static member and kind of how that all evolved out. And I don't know how much you want to go into detail about it, but I'll start with Arkkk real quick. Tell me about when you got into Final Fantasy XIV, what first got you into Statics and how that evolved from there.
So I had some real life friends that I actually worked with who was a married couple who were really into the game. And of course I had Easy as well. So it was like two couples that we wanted to get together and start raiding, which we had a tank, a healer, and 2 DPS, which is like half a group, really well split. So I was like, this would be very hard for me to get into this game that I like I don't know anything about, and I kind of got into it a little bit later. Like, you know, a lot of stacks were established at this point. A lot of people were working on T4, and so I just kind of wanted to keep it casual and see what I could get together. So I said, you know what, I think this is a good opportunity since I'm going really casual, much more casual than I normally do when I play MMOs. It's a good opportunity for me to start getting into raid leading and seeing what it's like. So, yep, we got together and I grabbed 4 other people, and I got lucky with some of them. Some of them are, well, one person was actually called Lucky too, but
Nice.
Literally.
But
Yeah.
but yes, some of the members that I grabbed happened to be like exceptionally amazing players and very like-minded, and I like more than admit that I was very lucky to find some of these players because I wasn't really necessarily good at recruitment. I was like, anyone, like I can make we can work together and we should be able to clear content with no matter who we bring into the group. And some of these players we brought were just amazing. And just kind of went from there. Like it's just built up of that. Every single tier we try to do something a little bit more. Some members cycle out when they have like different interests. Some members cycle out when they're done with the game. And we just kept building. It's like each tier we're like, okay, we're going to try a little bit harder this tier to do this. We're going to just try a little bit harder to do this. And mostly because the game content kept changing, right? It's like the content's harder this tier, so we're going to be better. And the content's is like this tier, so we're going to do this, you know? And try to just kind of stay above that minimum of requirements to clear content and stay together the whole way through. So that's kind of like the story is like, that's just, I'm
Okay.
still building on that, right? That kind of experience. I'm just collecting experience and keeping the group going.
And I mean, the story, of course, is always continuing. You're always going to have people leaving and coming back and everything else too. So, Mizzteq, are you ready? You ready with your life story? That you have it all written out? Like a Okay, let's go with it.
So, on November 11th, 1987, I was born.
Wow,
No,
that
I'm
is
kidding. Well, I just totally got my birthday
November
wrong.
11th.
17th.
17th, 1987.
nervous,
That's my birth year too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I started playing Final Fantasy in 2.0 or beta, I guess, and I came into the game with the mindset that I wasn't going to raid. I know, weird. And it's funny because I was expecting myself to do like dungeons and guides. Like that's when I was like starting to toy with the idea of doing it. So it's funny because I didn't actually look for a static right away. I just joined an FC. And I was like, okay, you know, like I don't think I want to raid. I don't think I'm going to bother. But at one point I was like, you know, I can't play MMOs and not do endgame stuff. Like I came from WoW, so I was like really, really wanting or having like that itch to do raids, to do whatever.
Mhm.
So I somehow just ended up in a group from that FC. And in that group, we met like a bunch of people that became like the core of our first main static that lasted for like a year. And from then on, it was basically just random changes over time, like people leaving, people stopping to play, you know, picking up players here and there. And we've always been like a loose, almost like a link shell static, I guess. We've never been like a big FC or anything like that. It's mostly just been people that we can find that work with our schedule, and we go from there. And then recently, it has been like strictly just link shell. Like our guild right now has like 3 people, me, Braddock, and like Solu. Hello, Solu.
Nice.
And so it's like mostly just through the link shell. It's built up of people that we either met over the past year or they're friends, people that we've known and like trusted enough to bring into the group and stuff like that. So it's been kind of like a puzzle piece almost. Like it took us a long time to find the people that fit, but now we have, and now we're starting to start again, which is really nice.
That's awesome. That actually sounds almost identical to my static, because we
thinking the same thing.
The big thing that we made was I just didn't want to be, hey, we had to be part of this FC to raid. I just wanted people I wanted to play with me.
Exactly.
And I started a static group out of the link shell that I made from when I first started the game. And I was like, I'm going to put everyone that I think is a halfway decent player into this link shell, and eventually I'm going to have people I can use as a resource to get stuff done, because I hate it. The whole random atmosphere of hoping that I had... Now I love it, of course. Trapping yourself is usually pretty good. But as a static group, I needed some sort of confidence the players were going to be good. And that's how it started. Just pieces from like an FC I was in once. Right now I'm in an FC of me and Kerr and one other person, Hydro, in the chat. Which eventually we'll probably leave too. Because it's pretty... Being on a server with not a lot of people actively raiding... and in an FC with no one in it, it's kind of painful because there's like almost no communication. You got to get to that central source of people who are actually playing the game. So I don't know. But then again, I have all the people on Twitch to talk to and play with, and that's been great too. But I don't know. That was just interesting because I could relate to it pretty well. Okay, so one thing that I wanted to start the main conversation off with is that a lot of people have this issue, and this usually happens with patches that are starting, I guess, midpoint between raid tiers. And people get bored. People lose motivation. This happened really, really, really hard last year with A3, right?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much a lot of people just stopped caring and they didn't want to raid anymore. And A6 kind of was like that for a while, but with the nurse, it kind of gave a little bit of, accessibility to the rest of the raid content. How do you guys think players can keep motivated when they're playing? And Ark, do you have any thoughts on that you want to start with?
To keep motivated? Well, yeah. It's like my opinion's always like, kind of stay true to what you really want. Like, this comes up a lot, but it's like, play the game for the reasons that you want to play the game. Of course, it's a multiplayer game, so there are other players you have. Like, there's certain things that if you have a very, very specific interest, you might not be able to play with other players. So you do have to compromise a little bit. But yeah, just like, do you like playing this class? Make sure you put yourself in a scenario where you like playing this class. Do you like to raid casually or mid-core or like hardcore? Well, make sure you set yourself up in that situation to do that kind of stuff. Set yourself up in a set yourself up for success. Set yourself in a situation where you're going to have the most fun. You're playing with like-minded people. Don't force yourself to play with players that you don't like that much, or you're like, this is good enough because it's convenient or something like that. Like, be open to change. Move to like the stuff that you want is in the game. Just seek it and find it, and you'll always be motivated as long as you keep doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Mizzteq, do you have any examples like in the past of players who completely lost motivation?
Yes, I am one of them.
You're one of them?
Yeah.
How'd you rekindle that?
So I think, like you said, A3 was probably like the hardest time of all of Final Fantasy history, where it was like possible to keep motivation and keep going and stuff like that. I don't know how I got through it, to be honest. I think it was just time. Like, I think it was finally realizing, or no, I guess, okay, let's start again. So I think a lot of the attitude, or I guess the negativity, when you're looking at the game comes from you like not having fun anymore and not realizing that you're not having fun anymore and doing something because you think you either owe it to the 7 other people in your group or you owe it to yourself because you've put X amount of time into the game already. Like, why stop now? And I think a lot of the times once you stop and like realize, hold on a second, I'm not having fun anymore, this sucks, then you can start to, I guess, kind of grasp what's going on and why you're not having fun and how to fix it. So I think for me, it was a lot of being around a lot of negative people at the time where no one was having fun. No one was like enjoying the game anymore. And we basically just said, you know what, we're stopping. Like, we need a break. We need to stop. Like, no one is playing this game for fun anymore. We're just playing it, going through the motions, and it is not fun for a single person. So we basically just stopped and we took a break, and we basically, in that break time, decided what was important to us, like what we wanted to accomplish in the game, what goals we had set out, kind of like what Shaman just said, like basically why are you playing the game, and then go for that, chase it. And that's when we realized, okay, like these people want to keep playing, these people don't want to keep playing, and they're okay. Like it's not anything personal, it's just you always have to play a video game because you're having fun. Like what's the point if you're not having fun? So I think realizing that was like the first step into kindling our motivation, because once I realized, oh my god, I don't have to do this, I don't have to do something that makes me want to like scratch my eyeballs out, you basically find new people to do stuff with. Like you find people that have the same mindset, so you'll either do random Bismarck EX farming or whatever, just anything that you might not think is fun because it's not like progressing in the direction that you want to, but it's something enough to like rekindle that love that you originally had for the game. So I think sometimes just taking a step back and realizing why the motivation is gone will help you move forward eventually. And it's okay to like stop if you need to.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's like an excellent response. And I mean, that harps on my motto. I mean, if you're not having fun, what's the point? You know, there is no point. You're playing a video game. You're not going, this isn't a job for you. At least for most people, this isn't a job for you. You're playing this game because you want to have a little bit of fun. And so is this always something that is an internal thing that you have to fix yourself, or are you able to like help other people fix it and nudge them in a certain way to get them more motivated to play?
I feel like part of it is internal because you have to be truthful to yourself. I know that sounds really cheesy, but you can have a conversation with someone and figure out what they like about the game or why they play the game. And I think in that sense, you can help them realize what their goals are, what they're looking to do. But without them actually wanting to like look within themselves or whatever and like, you know, figure out what's going on, like why they're not having fun anymore, you probably will have a hard time. Like you can say, oh, do this, do that, like go run outside and come back and you'll feel so much better. But without them actually wanting to make the change or wanting to realize, I don't think they can really do much. Like you can offer like events and stuff that you can do in game, but again, if they're not enjoying the game, it's gonna like fly right over their heads or whatever.
All right, that makes sense. Ark, do you have any way that you've ever had to try to nudge someone in the right direction?
Yeah, when we're speaking specifically about motivation and what their interests are, sometimes it is hard because players don't know what they want or don't think about it enough. They act very indifferent, even though they do have personal interest, and then sometimes they they let it go too long and don't tell anyone their personal interest until there's nothing they can act on. It kind of just gets they start lashing out in a different way, which is unfortunate. So like the nudging that I tend to do, and this is just a personal way, because I'm all about being proactive and like trying to prevent things before it's a problem, as opposed to solving problems, because I'm not as good at solving problems. I'm good at preventing them. So so that's just kind of my personal way of kind of trying to help. And this isn't as a raid leader, this is just something I would do if I was a regular player in general, but I like to kind of listen to people and ask them very specific questions about like, what do they like, what do you like, when I talk to them, like where's their passion, what do they like to just, what do they want to if I was gonna have a conversation with this person, what do they want to teach me, what do they want to say, on my spare time I like doing stuff like this. And like sometimes it would be something like along the lines of, when on my spare time I like playing this class, this is the class I like to play whenever I possibly can get a chance to. I'm like, sounds like you might want to play that class in a raid tier. And it's like, oh yeah, I definitely would, but people need me to play this class. And it's like, actually next tier we could set it up that you're playing the class you want to play. Like there's some people who want to, like, because if you're not honest about it, no one there's not enough communication amongst the group to like coordinate class changes. Like sometimes I think last year our machinist said that he didn't like machinist at the end of the tier. I'm like, well, there's like we're losing our tank right now. Did you want to play tank? He's like, yeah, I'll play tank. So it's like there's an opportunity. You don't have to like. So it's like, even if you're not happy playing this class, there's opportunities come up, and I can't help with those opportunities if I don't know about them. So like, be open with your group. Talk about what your interests are. If you grow apart or eventually they can't satisfy your interests, like then that might be time to kind of like, on good terms, seek another group, and like try to remain friends with the group. But like if they're not able to give you the stuff that you want in a group, you move on. If you're not able to provide them with the stuff they want, sometimes that's the nudge you can give too. It's like, are you going to be happy with this group long term? So that's kind of like the nudge
I
I
totally hear you clacking. I totally hear it.
do.
I knew it was gonna happen.
Ultimate sin.
You
I
go- I'm
thought
gonna-
it was quiet enough. Okay, I'll stop.
We'll tie your hands up. We'll just make that work. There you go. Yeah, but then you'll still like manage to get it over there. All right. But yeah, no, and like, I guess another question. Talking to them is extremely important especially if you're a raid leader and you're trying to be proactive about the whole situation. But keeping it upbeat is really important too. I kind of want to hear your opinion. Miz, is there ever a situation where you're like, this feels really awkward, everyone's kind of in a bad mood, maybe I could do something to kind of make it a little bit better? Do you just tell a lot of puns?
No, actually.
Okay.
I usually don't. I'm not the person that does that in our raid group because I feel like if I were to try to do that, I would fail miserably and like try to set up a pun and like completely just like mess up the punchline. But honestly, I think this kind of happens naturally with our raid group in like the weirdest way possible. So our raid leader likes to randomly like browse the internet while we're wiping and stuff. So if he comes across like a GIF or something that's like depicting how he feels, he'll post it in TeamSpeak. And he'll just be like, look at this picture right now. And a lot of the time, sometimes it's like a reaction thing like that. And sometimes it's literally like just the funniest thing that you will see that day. And it's not even like at all related to the raid, but I've noticed that it helps break up the
Tension?
Exactly. Yeah, it slices right through it, and you can just like click on it, take like a 10-second break to reset your mind, look at the funny picture, and then be okay for the next thing. Because I think a lot of the times people tend to dwell, like especially me, if I do something horrible and like fail, wipe the raid or something, I get really brooding and like emo about it. So giving myself the opportunity to like, forgive myself basically and move on is really good like that, like keeping the attitude upbeat. But on top of that, there are other people in our raid group that will say like the stupidest things just to get a laugh out of people. So I personally don't do that. I do sometimes if I can, if the opportunity is there. But
Right.
I think it just comes naturally, like as you become friends with your static members, like you fall into that comfortable random banter that helps sometimes.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not, by the way, I completely agree. Almost every player, especially good players, when they make a mistake, they're in a bad mood afterwards. They hate that. And it's really hard to get past that point because you're going to, like you said, brood. And I'm going to call Kerr out. She broods a lot too when she makes a mistake. And she's just like, I don't like this anymore. This is stupid. Because, she hates, she's a healer and she hates it when people die. Every time someone dies, she's like, I could have done something better. But that's like a sign of a wonderful player. Huh?
The gorilla, right? That's all I have to say to you.
Oh, the gorilla.
Yeah, right? He's kind of brewing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I heal with her now, too, and this has been, like, a great experience for both of us. But when I mess up, I relate to her. I'm like, this is stupid. I can't believe I've messed up so bad. We just had the wipe. And when I mess up the gorilla, that's the worst. I can't stand it when I mess up that gorilla, man. Like, where you're supposed to hit the bomb opposite on the second set, where you're supposed to hit it opposite of where the first one lands. I've so many times hit it straight towards the first set, and as soon as you hit it, it's like one button, wipe the entire group, you're done.
Yep.
And it sucks. But I take that on myself because I feel like I feel better if I take it on, and I get all the blame for it. I like that a little bit better. But anyways, when going past this a little bit too, I just had to relate a little bit there. But going past that a little bit, keeping people upbeat is really, really good for your group. But there's certain points where, especially in my group, where we raid like, I don't know, 3 to 6 hours a week, depending on how things turn out. Sometimes we can hit 8 hours, and that's like really great. But that time is really important if you want to make any real progression at all with the raid. And if you have a lot of banter going back and forth, and you spend 5 minutes going over something completely that takes you away from the match or the raid itself, then you kind of lose focus, and it makes it a lot harder. Ark, do you have any situations that you've had to deal with where you had to like kind of stop the banter, or do you just keep it on log? How do you handle that usually?
Actually, I did not have any problems this tier. In the past, I have, but for the most part, because we're in the same boat. Like we have like a limited raid time each week. We like my whole goal is always to strive to be very, very efficient with our time. So what I like to establish is like I have like chat channels that are outside of game, like Discord. We have like a social chat where people can kind of just all as a group talk about random stuff there. kind of get it out of their system a little bit and kind of socialize, which is good. We also have a channel just for raid strategies, and we can kind of communicate our strategies and kind of like, hey, if you do this, we can optimize this area. And it's nice because when it's like very open and public, that it's not like a private conversation like over like TeamSpeak or anything like that. People can review it and make their comments and be like, oh, you forgot about like the healer in this scenario or the tank in this scenario and stuff like that. So a lot of these conversations help outside of raid, and it kind of reduces the banter. In my opinion, it's always like big strat talks and big conversations about like social personal stuff. Like we can't do that in raid. I will try to block it, but of course, like you gotta let it go a little bit sometimes for like, or else tension can build up if like you're having a bad night or something like that. So I agree that it's good for that reason, but if you're having like a 30-minute conversation about something random, like I don't know, I can't think of any
cat pictures. Yeah. I mean, Miz, have you ran into that before where you're just like, can you guys just stop talking? I just want to try and I want to attempt on this fight.
We don't have a problem where like we talk too much in between wipes, but we do have the problem where, and I'm like a victim of this myself, so where we have players in our group that literally cannot do more than one thing at once. So if we start talking about something, we just wipe because we'll like miss a taunt, we'll like forget to do like a stun or something. Like we just, I don't know what it is, but our raid leader makes so much fun of us for it because he quite literally, like it's it's true. Like when you look at it from an outsider's perspective, we literally just cannot speak unless we're talking about the fight itself. Like we can't laugh. It's just physically not possible for us to. I don't know. Yeah, but for us, it seems like we have. This might change in the future based on what Square Enix decides to do. But basically, right now, when we are waiting on cooldowns in between wipes and stuff, that's like our chance to talk. So they tell me, okay, I got 60 seconds on my pot. So we're going to wait at least a minute. And in that 60 seconds, people get out what they need to say or whatever. And then as soon as 60 seconds are up and all cooldowns are ready, I hit my pull timer. And then we have 25 seconds to talk if we want, or to like at least wrap up the conversation. And then everyone knows it's time to focus. Because we know like we just can't talk while we're pulling. So I think in the past, we had issues with this where it would impede us, like our progression. We'd just be talking and wipe. And then we realized, okay, we can't actually talk and raid at the same time. So let's minimize the talking in between wipes, and then let's actually focus when we're in that. Because same as you, like we don't raid that often. So the time that we do have to raid, we have to optimize it as much as possible. So cutting down on talking is probably like the best way to do that.
Okay. So going a little bit into this next topic I want to talk about is actually dealing a little bit with, the raid leader side of it, but also, you don't have to be a raid leader, but just someone who's proactively trying to keep the group together. There's lots of groups that don't really even have an official raid leader, but there's ways that you need to kind of make the group about the raid. And when you're with friends, especially friends you've known for the longest time, and I haven't had to run into this situation too much recently because most of the people I know that I raid with, I met in Final Fantasy 14. I have a lot of friends from WoW that I raided with too, but it's completely separate. And when I'm raiding here, I don't have to deal with that issue, but there are some people who come into the game and they're coming in with their friends and they're raiding with their friends that they've known for so long, and they want to clear the content, but they have to like tell their friend, hey, you suck. You're not a good player, and you need to find a way to improve. But you have to do that in a delicate way, and I guess that really depends on how you know your friend. But if
don't say what you just said.
Yeah, you don't say what I just said, right? Yeah, no. But if you had to approach somebody that you knew out at a game, and you wanted them to improve so you could actually go somewhere, and you weren't wiping every single time because they aren't doing something right, how do you approach your friends if you had to approach a friend? Let's not, because there's all these situations are completely different depending on who you are and everything. But if you had to approach a friend Ark, and you had to say, hey, you need to get better so we can actually clear this content, how would you walk on, I guess, eggshells in that situation?
It's like I deal with that all the time, of course, right?
You got Izu, right? I guess.
Yeah. And I had two real friends. Honestly, we're going to go play board games with them. They're not in our group anymore, but we're going to go play board games with them right after MogTalk. So they used to be in our group as well. So, anyways,
did you kick them out and like just cut their heads off because they weren't good?
Well, if you want the actual explanation to this, we added an extra raid day, and they have kids and stuff like that, and they basically our group didn't really match them anymore, so they just kind of left on good terms with them, right? So that's how it is. But anyways, that's like another discussion, right?
Yeah.
So Yeah. It's just the best. Again, all proactive with me, right? So this might not work for some people, but for me, it's when you make people very aware of why you say things, it really helps prepare them mentally for how you act sometimes. So what I always say to like Izu and like my real life friends, or even friends I make in game, is that okay, there's raid leader arc and then there's regular arc. Raid leader arc doesn't give you special treatment. He doesn't even treat you like friends. He treats you like everyone else in the group, because if I give you special treatment, then the group falls apart. There's just going to be like an inner circle it's not really fair for other players, and that's just never healthy for a group. So I treat everyone equally as much as I possibly can. People can call me on it if I'm not treating people equally, like that I want them to. And that's always my goal. So just never special treatment. Treat everyone equally. If they make a mistake, I set like we have requirements for our group. Everyone has to meet that minimum requirements, regardless if they're friend or not. And then outside of raid, I can give them special treatment in the sense that I might help them a little bit more than others, try and get them past those problems so that I can play with my friends. Yeah, if the friends don't fit in your group, there's not much you can do about it. You just have to have a tough conversation at some point. Either you have to decide to drop down to a lower level, or even some cases maybe your friend's better than you, right? And maybe you have to try and pick it up for yourself and go to a more hardcore progression. It's hard to say, right? But yeah, you got to treat them like regular raiders, and if you're not a match, you're not a match. It's too bad, but it's not. You don't need to be an ecstatic to be friends with people, right? Like you can play and do casual content with them, right? So always keep that kind of stuff in mind, right? So.
Yeah. Well, they could also come to you and say, the only reason I was playing this game was to play with my friends. If we can't raid together, what's a point? And then they'll throw their hands up.
Yeah.
And
That's the whole. Yeah, you don't want to get trapped. Like that's like a trap that like they're trapping you in a group with them. It's not fair. So you could and just be honest with them. It's like no, it's like I'm not enjoying playing at this level or with these people. So let's do something else together. Like it doesn't have to be this game.
Go play Overwatch.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I mean, that sounds completely fair, and it's sometimes you're going to run into bad situations because people have these personalities that they just can't get over that kind of stuff. They have a high ego, and they won't get over it. And you're going to run into it.
Experience too. Like might not have known how to deal with the situation or anything like that. But it's just stay calm and understand it from their perspective just as much as you're trying to make them understand it from your perspective too. It's like you're supposed to be friends, right? So they're going to take things more personally. And that happens. So you need to get some thick skin, but people don't. Not everyone has that developed yet when it comes to like raiding with friends.
Yeah. Miss, did you ever run into any situations similar to that?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a little hard to avoid, especially even if you like join a static that you're not friends with anyone. Eventually, you're gonna become friends, and eventually, you're gonna have issues like this. So I feel like what Ark said, like, really hit the nail on the hammer, the head.
Hammer. Yeah, sure, why not?
But it's very similar to you go into a static or you go into a raid with expectations in mind. You have goals. Say you want to kill A8S or something, and I think everyone being friends should have the respect for one another and at least the professionalism or whatever, like, to be able to help each other reach that goal. And I think friends, because you're friends, you have the option to openly communicate when things go wrong. You can, like, say someone's not pulling their weight. Being their friend, you should be able to go up to them without them, getting butthurt or taking it personally. And at the same time, they should respect you enough to listen to you without being defensive, without, taking the criticism the wrong way. And I think sometimes it's a little bit easier, sometimes it's a little bit harder, and it really depends on the type of person that you're dealing with, because again, they can be defensive for no reason or take it personally for no reason. But I think it's the same thing. Like when you go into a raid, it's not exactly casual content. Like you're all going in there with whatever mindset. You're all going there with hopefully the same goals, and those goals should not, or I guess friendship should not override those goals, because otherwise you're just not going to get anywhere. But I don't know. I think keeping open those lines of communication is what helps in these situations. And knowing that just because you're so-and-so's friend doesn't mean that you can do 700 DPS as a monk and get away with it. Because you're friends, you should not be, like, why would you want to hold back your friends? Like, I feel like in situations like that, you have the option to, like, talk. You can figure out what's going on and you can fix it. So, but at the same time, I can understand the friends that are like, oh, I don't want to play to this level or whatever because I'm just here to have fun. But at that point, then you have to sort of separate like what your goals are and figure out what each person wants, because it's like in real life, you may not want to watch Arrow or something together, and apparently he wants to watch I don't know. I'm just
No, that's good. You don't want to take this guy to a doubles tennis match because he's not good at tennis and you want to win. That was your goal. Your goal is to go out there and win.
Yeah, and it's not anything personal, and they shouldn't take it personally just because they're friends. Like, they should be more understanding because they are friends. If that's the problem. But
yeah. Oh, that makes.
I mean, like, it's all about and like, not to be like it. Being understanding is good from your side too. Like, you got to remember that when you're going to give someone help, you might be wrong. You might be wrong when you go to give them advice. And I say this kind of often. It's like, one human's like, as a raid leader, I'm like one person. I'm gonna make a crap ton of mistakes if I'm the only one who's thinking about this stuff. So it's like, I detect something that might be a problem, and I openly bring it up to the entire group. And I'm like, hey guys, is this right? Does this look right to you? Like, am I stupid right now? And sometimes they'll be like, yeah, no, that's like, it doesn't really matter that much, or yeah, you're stupid. Or sometimes they're like, let's look into that. And then we all collectively look into it. And then if it's like something to do with one person or something to do with a strategy or something we all misinterpreted, we collectively make a more correct decision, as opposed to like a couple people saying like, or some people behind doors saying like, oh, this person's DPS is really low, this person's DPS is really low, and then you kind of go and talk to them. It's like, no, actually, that person's doing these mechanics. That's why their DPS is low. They're actually doing fine. Or it's our comp is why this person's low. They're actually doing fine when you compare them to people with similar. So just keep in mind that you could be wrong when you're giving this advice too, of course, to your friends and stuff. So that's sometimes a problem.
Speaking
right?
on that, I want to openly embarrass myself real quick, and this was just last night. And I've done this before with other jobs and classes. So recently I switched to Scholar, guys, for this tier, and I decided, I want to do this. We're going to figure this out because it's really hard to find a good Scholar. It's not as hard to find a good DPS, I thought, so it's like, let's just work with that. I'll make the best. I'll no matter what, I'm going to make it work. And so last night, we're on A7S, and, I'm getting a crit with Adlo. And I was like, oh man, I did 8,000 heals on that, so I got an 8,000 shield. And the guy was like, no, that's like a 16,000 shield, man. It doubles. I'm like, oh, you're an idiot. No, there is no way to... And I turned my ability text off, so I don't read it. I don't read it anymore. That was way past, like, a long time ago. I was like, are you joking? No, you're thinking about this the wrong way. Sure, it heals 8,000, and it gives you a shield for 8,000, so technically, I guess that's 16,000, and it all works out. He's like, no, man, it crits. When you do it, it actually crits it. And you will double it, and you'll have a 16,000 shield plus an 8,000 heal. I'm like, I play Scholar. You're an idiot. What are you talking about? And
Get
so
out of here.
after a few attempts, I actually turned it on. I looked at it. I was like, all right, guys. I'm wrong. I have to admit I was wrong about that, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Everybody made fun of me for a little while, but it was good. And
this close to walking away just from this stream. This is I'm very close to just walking right now.
What's funny is if you actually think about it in a long run, it doesn't really change how you heal or you play or anything. It's just an added bonus to your healing. So it wasn't like a critical failure on my end. If it was a critical failure, I'm sure I would have ran into it beforehand.
Yeah, I describe it as like an advanced tactic. If you can make use of the crit at certain times, then there's things you could do to be heal more efficiently for mana management or DPS. But it's an advanced tactic. It's definitely not something that's required to even clear 8S. So.
Yeah, and so I wanted to make sure I embarrassed myself because I was really wrong on that, and it felt kind of weird. But
I'm sure I have stories too for myself.
Yeah, it's not like I host a podcast where I talk about in-depth healing or anything else, or I actually go into these situations. But but everyone's gonna, even the most advanced players are probably gonna not realize one little thing, and every once in a while, especially when they're switching to new jobs, guys, come on. But no, yeah, people are gonna not know everything, and it's important to always be humble going into these situations, and you're gonna be wrong. And if you can't accept that, then if you're me and you can't accept that, then you're like, I don't want to raid anymore. This is too embarrassing. I can't do this. I gotta start over. Different game. A fresh start. I'll know everything about that game.
Plastic surgery on your face.
Yeah. All right, and so I guess the next section of this show I want to talk about which is really important for progression overall, is when you approach a fight and working together with your team to figure out how to clear that content. There's different ways to do it. My favorite way is to go in completely blind every single boss that we start off. We just go the first night we try, the first whatever few hours that we try it, it's going to be completely blind because I don't want to stress people on learning multiple fights at once. How do you guys normally approach each fight that you guys go into? And Mizzteq, I'll start with you if that's all right.
Yep, it depends honestly what we're doing. So if it's like brand new patch, literally no one knows what to do, we go in blind and it's fun and it's like awesome. Like you sit there and you're wiping and you're figuring stuff out and you feel so good about yourself once you finally like progress through each mechanic. So that's a lot of fun. And then there are other things where we're like a few months behind, we're just stepping into A8S or something. Our raid leader will basically like pick a strategy and say, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And then, you know, like we have our forums and people will like watch videos. We use Twitch to our advantage. We use YouTube videos, whatever we can. And we basically look and see what we should do, what we should be aiming for. We also have like kind of like a weird comp sometimes. Like we do Astro Scholar and we now have Paladin. I don't know, like we keep changing our tanks around. So our group comp is kind of fluctuating all over the like every fight, it seems like. Yeah. So we basically just try to see what we can do personally, and then we go in there and we try it, and then we basically optimize or like try to change strats around based on what our strengths, our weaknesses are, what we can handle, what we can't, and go from there. Like it's kind of like going in blind but with glasses. Or something. I don't know.
Going in blind, but go studying a little bit on the fight. So when you first, whatever information you can get, I guess at first, and if you go in blind and just have fun with it. Yeah. Ark, how do you usually approach fights with your group?
Kind of similar. Would describe again. Very very interested in optimizing our raid time, but I don't ever expect people to be so knowledgeable of the next fight that we're not working on that they have to look super far ahead. If they do, that's just a nice to have. Sometimes I do it as well. Sometimes I don't when I know that it would be too distracting for myself. So at least the fight we're currently working on, if there are guides and strategies, basically use every advantage you can get. So like Mizzteq was saying, like Twitch stream, kill video, like, you know, before guides are out and before people are streaming a lot, there are kill videos. Kill videos don't give you a description, but that you can, so they're a little bit harder to learn from, but you know, we can go over them together. It's like, look what this group's doing here. I'm pretty sure this is what they're doing, and this is why they're using their cooldowns here and stuff like that. So yeah, use every single advantage you possibly can. No hard requirements probably the first night we go in there, as long as it's not a fresh raid night. Like if we kill the fight and we have 2 hours left of the night, it's probably going to be like some blind runs and stuff like that. But after that, I usually, as we're ending the night, I'm like, learn up to this phase really well, and of course, research the entire fight, but learn up to this phase really well, because there's no way we're going to get past this phase on our first night or our second night. Like we're going to get stuck like well before even that part. So I try to set like a requirement of like, know this up to this point at least, and then if anyone wants to do more, like it'll just make their job so much easier if they do more. So
okay,
our raid leader does the same.
Oh yeah.
Giving us goals on what to like learn before next raid. It's like homework.
And if you guys get to that point, you're just like, well, we'll just figure it out from there, right?
At least someone should know what to do next, and then it probably won't be it'll be kind of messy on the first night, but you don't want to, you know, like it's hard to process like there's no way you got to that point extremely cleanly anyway, so it's like you still need to practice the stuff that you did up to that point, so it's not a loss of the night. So
yeah. I definitely agree with that. So you guys kind of set phase goals for each fight. It's not like we plan to just beat the fight, know the entire fight, and get there. You guys like, this is kind of where we're aiming for, kind of have an idea of what we're doing, and then just kind of practice from there.
Depends how easy it is too.
Yeah.
Well, some fights now are like insanely long, and there's like 5 phases.
Yeah.
Like try to imagine learning all of Thornton EX like all at once. Try to do that. You will be so overwhelmed. It's insane. But if you break it down into steps and like break it down into little things, and you know, like even for A7S, for example, like breaking down each phase, each tell, and then based on what people are doing for each thing, I feel like that helps people sort of understand the fight a lot more fundamentally than just trying to go through like the motions that they see in kill videos or whatever. And so it takes time and effort, I think, like figuring out what you need to do for your own group.
Do you guys set like kill goals? Like, hey, we want to spend 4 weeks on this fight, or do you just kind of wing it?
We do, but we never are able to. We have like what we call the 8-man curse, because we like seem to never have a full group for most weeks. So anytime we set like a goal like that, we lose someone or something crazy happens and we can't raid for like a week or someone's on vacation. So I don't think we've done that recently, but it's like always in the back of our minds. Like we want to get this done at least before the next tier, right? Like we want to get it done or work towards that goal. But I don't know. The curse has us.
Yeah, Mizzteq, I don't know if you're talking about my group or
Yeah, I
your
know,
group
really,
anymore.
right?
I mean, it's pretty much like the same
It
situation.
applies to everyone.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's just like the natural order of things in statics sometimes.
Yeah, because we always have somebody out someday, some of every week, and it's normal. I mean, this is like people have lives and they have to do things outside of the group and everything. But if I mean it's like what was the right word for it? If it's holding you back, I guess, then maybe you need to start talking about it. But people, unless if you're in like a server first, world first progression group, it's hard to take that stuff and say, hey, if you don't show up this one night, we're completely ruined. Right? Stuff's gonna happen. And it's funny, like I couldn't.
Server first. It's just like
Yeah,
there's
server
always-
first,
there's-
everyone's just
there's
kinda
server
like-
first groups that are like are exactly like your group. It's like such a not a quantifiable way
But
of
people,
saying it.
yeah, but there are some serious server first groups out there because that's an achievable goal for them, right? They know, hey, I'm
Maybe.
going to make server first. There's no way I'm going to make world first because I can't sit there 18 hours a day and raid, but I'm probably going to beat everyone else on my server.
Just
So it
pick
gives yourself a goal.
Pick a very specific server where there's no raiders on it, right? And
Yeah, why not?
First.
Yeah, server only is what that server has, but it's kind of cool to see that a lot of other groups are out there pretty much experiencing all the same issues that people go out and they're like, my group sucks. And all this stuff just always happens. People sometimes don't show up. You're in a pretty damn normal group. You're not like in some weird off spin of the worst group in the world. You're in a standard group. People are not going to show up unless if you're in a super hardcore serious group where it's you make it your job basically to get that clear.
yeah.
Okay.
Like we always do our goals in like hours, right? You were kind of mentioning it, yeah, like because I'm trying to account for stuff like that. Like, sometimes we might not raid. I don't talk about weeks or days because sometimes we can't raid on days. Sometimes we're missing people. It's like as a full group, this is how many hours about will take. Like A5S, I was like, that should take us maximum 3 hours when we got to it. And then for A8S, I was saying at least 40 hours, and we cleared it in 42 hours. So usually I'm pretty close at it because I'm comparing it to groups that are ahead of us that are similar skill, but they're raiding more. So there's a lot of groups out there that raid more and are similar skill to us that it's like, wow, it's like looking into the future every single week. It's awesome. It's like it gives me it's like so easy to estimate when we are going to kill stuff until like maybe the skill of our group completely changes between tiers. Then I'm a little bit like, I'm not really sure a couple weeks in, so I don't really give accurate estimates until we start getting close to the final boss. And then the final boss, I'm like, I can get this down perfectly. I know exactly where we're going to be when we get to this boss. So yeah, and I give a lot of leeway. Like I set goals that are like obtainable for sure. Like there are goals that we could just destroy if things go right. But I expect there to be I expect it to be a bumpy road always. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of interesting to talk about, too, because, again, people do use the measurement of weeks and months and everything else. But honestly, it probably does have a lot to do with how many hours you're putting in and not just... And it's funny because that kind of changes. That formula will change, too, with how often you raid. Because if you raid once a week, you're going to have a regression, I guess. Yeah, a regression because you're not used to the fight. You got to relearn some of those things. But if you're raiding 3 times a week, then you're seeing it a lot more often and it stays in your head a little bit better. So there's so many different ways to measure it. The way you're measuring it's pretty good, especially if it's with other groups that are kind of, I guess, I mean, and that gives a benefit to people who are rating every single day because this is always fresh to them, right?
It's taken into account, but I think that it really only happens when you're rating very, very low numbers each week is when you see that regression. It's like if you raid 3 hours a week, it'll probably take you about an hour or so to get back up where you were last week. If you raid, say, like 12 hours a week or something like that, it'll probably take you like 30 minutes if you're like waiting along. So like it's just less and less the more you raid. There's a sweet spot in there somewhere where you won't even notice it. I think like I said, between 9 and 12 hours, you probably will hardly notice any regression between each week.
And so that's for people who do put 3 hours in a week. You're spending I guess 1 hour every single week. Let's just say that's the standard there. So you have 2 hours of progression every single week compared to other standard groups. And if it takes them 40 hours, you're looking at a pretty long time to try to clear that turn. Yeah. So kind of take that into account.
Might want to add an extra raid day in there.
Yeah, it may be.
So you might talk about. Do you guys really want to work on this for 40 weeks, or do you want to add in an extra day and maybe working on it in 20 weeks? But it's good. That's why estimating is kind of good for that. You can kind of say like, before this is a problem where we're all quitting like halfway through the fight, instead of being halfway through the fight, how about we are near killing it instead if we add this extra day? And is everyone up for that? Oh, 7 of us are up for that? Okay, well, maybe we should talk about the one person who may not be happy with 2 days a week and, see if like there's something we can do, like cycle them out, like on good terms again, right? And they're part of the discussion too, so they would know what's going on.
Yeah. All right. So the next part I want to talk about is when you're trying to help people improve themselves. I mean, we're at that point. We're like, okay, you're my friend. We're raiding. I'm going to try to help you improve. What are some good ways to kind of help players? And I want to go by this by role because it's different. Because when you're trying to tell someone to get a little bit better at a tank, it's a little bit different than telling someone to get better at DPS. They have different ways to improve. And so if you needed someone to go and improve and be a better tank, what are some ways to clearly define, hey, this is going to make you a better tank? And you know what, Mizzteq, I should probably start with you. I know you ate some popcorn there and you got it in your mouth. So I'm going to ask you first. Okay.
We're good.
But yeah, for a tank, how would you help them improve? What clear goals would you give them?
I would say we have to figure out where their weaknesses lie first. If it's things like cooldown management, or they're fine with that, but they're not doing enough DPS, or anything like that, it's hard to help someone when you don't know what the problem is. Mm-hmm. So in our group specifically, we use tools. So we use like FF logs, for example, and in that, speaking from like a warrior perspective, because I don't play warrior anymore, but when I did, you could tell as the weeks progressed and how I learned to play better and better, how my DPS improved or whatever. So using a tool like that, the first week I realized, oh shoot, like I thought I had like 100% or as close to 100% MAME uptime, but I didn't. And here it is. Here's the evidence on FF logs. Like, who knows why that happened? Probably because mechanics, I was too like uncomfortable with the fight, so I was doing all sorts of random things. And then you start to realize, okay, there's my issue. There's where a lot of my DPS is dropping because I don't have MAME up. So using that was like the first step to learning how to be better. So I think being open as a player to all sorts of tools, evidence, even like, say for example, like you record yourself while you play and then you go back and watch it and see what happened when you wiped. Why did you make X decision? Why did you use this cooldown instead of this cooldown? And like just breaking it down step by step, figuring out what your mentality is at that time, and like going from there is probably the best way to improve, because when you're like in the middle of the fight, sometimes you make decisions that you can't explain. Like even 5 minutes later after you've wiped, you're like, why did I do that? Like you don't know. And then, but if you sit down and you break down exactly what happened, exactly what you were thinking, you sort of start to understand where that reasoning comes from. And then if it's a wrong reasoning, you can fix it. And if it's the right reasoning, maybe you needed to do something extra to like build up on it or anything like that. But I think, again, it's all about being open with like the rest of your static, being open with like your co-tank. They might have insight on something that you just for some reason is flying over your head, anything like that. I don't know, all sorts of things that it's based on your willingness to learn as a player and wanting to improve in the first place, I think.
Okay. Yeah, and that's extremely important. And I think a lot of people kind of put this thing into where tanking is so easy. All you got to remember is the tank busters. Oh, and you got to move the boss to the right places. There's a lot more you can do as a tank to help your team clear that fight.
There's like a huge difference between just doing like the minimum as a tank and then being a really great tank. And I think a lot of people do minimum, but to push yourself into that direction, you need input from all sorts of resources to learn what you can do more.
The minimum, leaves no room for DPS to make errors and stuff like that, which is sometimes a little, it makes it so your group's less.
And you're technically making tons of errors. But because you're not doing everything that you could be doing.
And then, well, especially as a ninja, there's stuff I can do to really help out tanks too. But like speaking from like let's say all of the raids, like speaking for raid DPS in general, everyone's raid DPS. So when I'm like looking at roles, I know how a lot of people quantify tank and healers, and especially DPS, based on how much DPS they do individually. But what I look for is like, first off, raider basics. Like, how are you at mechanics that are, regardless of your role, you have to do this mechanic? That's the first most important thing to do. That would be like dodging chakrams in A8S or something like that, or doing height would be maybe more familiar. The next would be role like critical responsibilities. So that would be like a tank not using a cooldown. That would be like a healer not setting up mitigation or using the right heals at the right time, or forgetting to heal or something. And that would also be DPS failing at burst DPS checks and stuff like that. Then finally, once you have all the critical things down, there's like that would be when it's like, okay, after you're doing all these things, how distracting are you finding all these things, and show that by how much DPS you can actually output that's extra. And that's not really necessarily a required DPS, but it's enough to make it so if someone else screws up, like there's a death or something, that we have all this extra room for error and stuff like that with extra DPS. So that's when I look at healer and tank DPS. It's like, as far as I'm concerned, healer and tank DPS is 0 to me if they can't do their basic responsibilities that don't block the root group from learning new things or getting further in the fight and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. And so from like a because you play Ninja right now, Ark.
Yep.
And so seeing how your group's actually going, what are the biggest tell signs this tank is not doing a good job? Is that just pretty much not doing mechanics properly, getting paralyzed from chalk rooms and stuff like that?
Yeah, if we're wiping due to something, the tank is involved in something, and we're wiping, and the entire group believes that it's, or even the tank themselves believes that it's something they made a mistake on. Of course, we can talk about it and say, like, is our strategy making this like stupid difficult for you? Or is there something else missing? But if it's like, no, it's definitely the tank forgot to use like a cooldown at this time, or isn't using a cooldown at this time, which normally have available, or we're missing debuffs on the boss that the tank could have put up. It's really difficult because there's a lot of things you can put more pressure on the healers or more pressure on the tanks. It's all about balance, in my opinion. It's like the healers are doing this right now. This is a good time for them to DPS. Let's put more pressure on the tanks to do mechanics and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the kind of things I'm looking for. If it's like, DPS are so easy to determine when there's something wrong with them because you have the meters that kind of tell you a lot, and then there's like mechanics that explode and wipe the group if you're not doing burst DPS checks properly. So it's like it's very easy to use FF logs and look at a timestamp and see when people weren't on the right targets and stuff like that. But when it comes to tanks and healers, it can be tough sometimes to determine it. But it's really just a matter of, usually it's hard wipes that is when tanks and healers are involved. It's a hard wipe usually that occurs. So that in itself is like, it's not always easy to tell exactly what could have been done better or what's the right choice, but you can tell that if there's a lot of hard wipes represented by one individual player all the time, it's like whenever this person's involved, there's a lot of hard wipes. It's something that you can maybe look at first, or at least your eyes would be on that area, see if they are missing cooldowns or using it last second and it doesn't take effect, stuff like that. Yeah. So those are the kind of things I'm looking for, yeah.
Okay. And so going into the next one and getting a little specific with healers, for me, it's really easy to tell if there's a mistake for me, because I'm like, oh, he died. What could I have done to make him live? But then again, you have to kind of add in their equation too. Did they have a debuff on him because they messed up a mechanic? Did they not use it right? I guess cooldown at that point, or they have a weird cooldown rotation, which is making it to where they have a weaker cooldown for this part where they're going to get hit for even more. But have you guys ever saw a spot and you're like, this is a bad healer, and I know he's a bad healer, and you had a good idea why he was a bad healer? Miz, do you have any thoughts on it? I saw you looking for it.
I think this can be applied to most players, not just healers, I think. But I think it's like anytime someone is just not simply doing anything. Like they are either like running away from an AoE and then just sort of standing there, or
it's called activity. I think it's actually represented on FF logs. Yes, it's activity.
The ABCs, the always be casting mentality, where you want to, no matter what point of the fight or what you're supposed to be doing, you always want to try to do something. Like either you're supposed to be healing. If you're not actively healing and you don't need to be actively healing, why are you not DPSing? Or if you are DPSing and you're supposed to be healing, why are you DPSing? Like all sorts of things like that. But I think the point is that you were active for like the entire duration of the fight, basically.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing to shoot for, is just as long as, again, the critical things, because you can carry a player through a fight if they're a little bit slower to learn. Some fights, players are slower to learn. It happens sometimes, even if they're very skilled. So you can still get it through a fight and clear it while a player is still learning aspects of it. So like, we're talking about activity, right? I'm okay with someone being less active if it means that they will do their role responsibilities. They're absolutely critical for seeing more of the fight or clearing the fight. So like if a healer can't DPS and do these critical healing or even just do regular mechanics, then I would prefer them not to DPS, and then we'll just have a little bit more pressure on the rest of the group to do more DPS and stuff like that.
Okay.
So and that's true for every single role too. I believe that for every like that's like also a DPS screwing up mechanics. Well then maybe we'll just have our healers ready to heal this DPS who screws up this mechanics. It's a lot better to get the clear and then kind of deal with those problems if you're able to. I mean sometimes it's too bad. Like you don't have the players to be able to carry that player through a mechanic, or it's a mechanic that causes a hard wipe or whatever. But whenever you can, it's great because it's like sometimes it's just some players just get caught on like mechanics that you would be like, this player is good at everything else except for this one mechanic he's learning slower, he or she is learning slower, right? So yeah, it's like should be open like to fix like helping those people get through it because it's gonna happen sometimes.
Yeah. And so I'm going to go off on a tangent real quick, and I
Sure,
just
sure,
thought this was kind of an interesting comment from Nix, and this is complete tangent. This is 100% tangent about Miz eating popcorn one by one. And why not eat the whole damn thing? Yeah, eat the whole damn thing.
So I like ate all like the big popcorns, and now all I'm left with is like the like the tiny like
Crumbs, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm just eating those, and I'm trying not to make noise, so I'm.
You're doing good. You're doing good. But when you say eat the whole damn thing, I don't know if he's expecting you to put your hand in there, grab a whole bunch, and just start doing this the entire time or something.
Yeah. No,
I love.
don't know.
And like, what's so great about that is that the robot voice came in right at that, so it sounded like a very jumbled, like. It was.
Of course.
It was perfect.
Robot? Oh god, I can see the pixelation.
Yeah, it's a little bit robot. I think it should be okay. We'll run with it for a second, and if not, we can reset it here in a moment. Okay. But we'll get through this next part here to finish up this topic, just because I want to mention this a lot. People gauge DPS always on how much damage they do, and it's a very clear indicator. Hey, this guy's doing tons and tons of damage. But are there any other indicators you should look for besides, very clear ones where they're messing up mechanics that you're like, hey, this guy might not be a good DPS? And Mizzteq, I don't know if you want to try taking that one.
Sure. I don't know. I feel like even for DPS where their actual damage numbers or their whatever numbers are a huge portion of how good they are, I think for any player, it's all about like attitude, and it's about your ability to handle things as they come. So being able to adapt to situations when they're not, like scripted to what you're used to, or you're expecting to pop your cooldowns here because this is what you do every other week, and if something changes and you flip out and you think, oh my god, I can't possibly work under these conditions. I feel like people like that are probably, I don't see them as like better players than someone that can think on their feet and still do, maybe not do top DPS, but still do like respectable DPS while handling the crazy things that are being thrown at them and still like keeping the group together. I think those people are like top players in my mind, because they're basically like inherently really good at what the game is throwing at them, not just good at pressing their buttons at whatever time that they're used to.
And I'll kind of agree with that a little bit, because I would value a player who did maybe 50 to 100 DPS less than another player if there were more attempts where they didn't make mistakes. So if we had more attempts where like the guy that did more damage had like 4 mistakes that whole night, but the other guy did 1 mistake the entire night, you're probably going to clear more likely with the guy that did the 1 mistake.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very important factor in that. Ark, did you want to add some more onto that?
Well, it's just like, yeah, there's some good examples. Like, say you have a death earlier in the fight and, there's a hard DPS check coming up. You hold off cooldowns that will all lower your individual parse, but will get you the kill because you beat a harsh DPS check. So that's one example of that kind of stuff that you would see from DPS. Sometimes it's also mechanic. It's like mechanic related. You see someone who normally does mechanic who can't. It's like, well, okay, obviously not optimal for the DPS to do this mechanic, or me specifically, like a melee DPS, do this mechanic, but they're dead, so, or it's something went wrong, or they disconnect, or whatever. I'll do this mechanic and just stop DPSing altogether and do this mechanic so we don't wipe. I've seen people do that in my group all the time. It's really nice. Then there's another one too on A8S. I don't know if you're at the robot rampage phase yet, Mizzteq, or not. But,
I know of it.
Yes, there's a it's controlled DPS phase. There's a burst DPS check and then a controlled DPS phase. So, it's really respectable to see DPS. Usually it's me, but that's fine. Hold off DPS when you're not allowed to push more. Like it's like you're watching the health of everything and being like, okay, I have to stop here. I can't put any DPS on this, or I can't AOE this, or like I just have to slow down because it looks like we're moving too fast and stuff like that. Things like that as well are very important. And they're not scripted as well too. And there's a million blood for blood. Like that's using blood for blood at the wrong time, or knowing when to use blood for blood. That's like a very obvious one. That's not too hard to plan out, but DPS can screw it up. So I've screwed it up before too, so of course.
Yeah. All right. I think a lot of this stuff is just really good identifiers for how to like get to that point. Like, oh, this guy is someone that we need to tell him, hey, you need to improve. So if you tell someone how to improve, do you just pretty much say, hey, go look at a video, go look at a rotation, go find a guide somewhere? Do you have any pointers that you normally do?
For me?
Yeah.
Normally I would try. My main goal is to give the evidence and to check with everyone in the group and find the evidence. And say, like, this is my suspicion. Like, I'm not going at this saying like this is definitely a problem. It's like, here's my suspicion. Can we prove it? If we prove it, then it's like, okay, once it's proven, it's a piece of cake to fix. It's like, here's a problem. There's information everywhere about how to fix this. And like people will probably say stuff like, here's some stuff, or the person will probably find it themselves. If they don't find it themselves, then if that happens enough times, it can be kind of difficult for the group to always be telling the person where to find information. But it's not a difficult thing to do. It would usually just comes down to likely laziness or being burnt out. Maybe I should say is better. Like, laziness and burnt out tend to kind of go hand in hand. So if they're not looking stuff up a lot of the time after you've proven a problem. Yeah, but for the most part, I just try to. I'm not here to shame people or anything like that. I'm just trying to make the group better and make players better. So it's like, as long as other people understand that, they're usually like, perfect. I'll go look this up and figure out how to solve this problem that has been clearly identified. So. Like
understanding crit, adlo stuff.
That's not necessarily wait, you were getting through content just fine.
I was getting through content. Yeah, they were like, I can't believe you're on A7S and you don't even understand that's a thing. But
yeah, it's more of a loss of respect than a problem.
Loss of respect, yeah.
The problem skill.
Yeah, I'm okay. I don't need to be respected. That's fine. But Ms., have you ran into any situations that you're just like, this is how I'm going to help this guy improve, and you had a good way to do that besides just kind of the obvious stuff?
Well, a lot of what Ark said applies to me as well. But I think it comes... Oh, Kat, all of a sudden. I don't know if you can see her, but she's right here. I think it comes naturally as you, like, age almost. Not really age, or, like, mature. Mature is the better word. Because you can have, like, really young players that are mature as hell, and they are awesome. And I think it's being respectful to each other. Involves being the best player you can be at any one time, right? Especially in a raid group where you've all committed to an end game or a goal or something. And so I feel like when you're approaching someone to help them improve, that person should have that level of maturity to accept your help. They should be able to accept criticism without being, considering it like a personal attack on their being or whatever. So I think once you're in a situation as stable, I'll say that with quotation marks, as a static should be, or a healthy static, I should say, it should be easy to approach problems like that, because it's not like you are personally attacking the person for doing low DPS. You are basically in the same boat together, and the boat is sinking, and you don't know why because you're not making whatever DPS check. And together, you're all trying to find a solution. So it's all about working together, and even having those people like accept help, I think, is like the biggest thing. So if you are willing to help someone, you should always be willing to also accept help. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
no, it's good.
It's all about open communication with your friends, your raid team. Like, show them the respect that you would prefer to be shown as well. It's like the golden rule that you learn in kindergarten. It applies to raiding 20 years later. It's just all about, and the evidence thing is huge. Like, because you can say, oh, you're not doing whatever you're supposed to be doing, but if you're not really backing that up, it seems like a personal attack. But if you're just looking at the numbers and you're saying, hey, like, this is what you're in deliverance for some reason instead of, I guess I said that backwards. You're in defiance instead of deliverance when you could be.
Right.
Little things like that can help. And then they have things like little goals to work on, instead of just being like, oh, they're just doing it because they hate me because I mentioned that their hair was stupid 2 weeks ago or something. Like, you have concrete evidence that you can work towards fixing or changing.
Yeah. And so a lot of what you talked about does come, in fact, with having good communication as well. And developing that is extremely difficult sometimes. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes you're like, hey, yeah, let's just talk a little bit outside of raid, or you develop these relationships that make it easier to communicate. But in situations where it's really hard to communicate, is there any good way to fix that and just say, hey, you just say, hey, do you want to watch a movie together? Do you want to, go do some stuff together? Or do you just say, hey, talk to me more? I mean, do you just like shake their head and say, please just talk, instead of just being quiet every time you make a mistake? How do you guys improve upon communication within a group?
Brute force sometimes.
Brute force?
Yeah, because honestly, like we've had issues like that where we have shyer members of the group that don't want to speak up after, or you have people like me who are too busy like raging to actively say, "Oh crap, I did this," like a normal person would. Oh, sorry, I just threw my cat off the desk.
No, it's okay.
But I think it's just exactly. I think it's more becoming comfortable, because now I think like our raid leader basically just asks every time, even if they know that you know what you did, just verbalizing it sometimes will help you get over it. It even helps me sometimes, like saying it out loud, even if I know exactly what I did wrong and I've been like, it's like a nail in my head right now, just punishing myself for what I did wrong. Saying it, it gives you the opportunity to like get over it and move on and fix your mistake, continue on. So I don't know. I feel like when it's hard to speak to someone, it's probably because there's something holding them back. Either they're afraid of being ostracized, or they're afraid of being yelled at, or they're afraid of just not knowing what went wrong. Like a lot of the times it's just fear that keeps people from talking or discussing stuff like that. And just keeping those lines open is like the best thing you can do. Like making sure that you don't immediately yell at them, listen to them. And if they don't know what they're doing or what happened, try to help them as best as you can, because you're basically trying to pave the road for like down the line when they, it happens again. They're much more open to open up to you and like figure out or talk.
You're training them.
Yeah, kind of. But you're also training yourself, because you don't want to like immediately like start yelling at them and being like, "You suck. What's wrong with you?" It's more of a healthy relationship of
trying to develop that kind of relationship to where you can do that
like
kind of stuff.
Any like at work, for example, say you're at work, your boss calls you to their office and says, "Hey, like I noticed you're doing this. What's going on there?" It might be because you're in trouble, but at the same time, they're both like, you're both there to fix the issue and move on from it. So I think people over time and with maturity, they learn that it's not like a personal attack on them, and it's just something to help these 7 other people in your group and to go on from there and move on.
Yeah. There's also like sometimes when the player who makes a mistake, they might be upset about it or depressed about it, or just like, they're taking it too hard on themselves too. That's why it's important to talk about it. It's like, like this is something that all groups have problems with, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, groups wipe to this stuff all the time. It's like someone in our group has to wipe to these mechanics X amount of times so the rest of us can learn exactly how to make sure that never happens. So it's going to be any of you. It could be like the most skilled player in the group who's like saying stuff like no one should ever wipe to this, could wipe to those kind of mechanics. So like you don't want to kind of put that pressure on yourself. And I of course like always downplay statements like that, because there's just no way to, like a cat could jump on your desk at some point, like there's no way you can really prevent those things from happening. So especially when you're really new to it and learning, and it takes a lot more focus than it will once you're closer to having stuff on farm. So, and another thing is too, like you want to hear exactly what like it's good to vocalize what you think went wrong, because then you might say something and the other 5 people are like, wait, no, I think you've totally misinterpreted that mechanic. Like that's not how it actually works. It's kind of close to how it works, but then in this certain RNG situation, you never be able to succeed. And it's like, oh, so I had it wrong this whole time. Like I was close, but I didn't actually know. Like it's, you have to be ready. You have to always think that you're wrong. It's very important when raiding. Like you have to be ready to be like, okay, you have to doubt yourself a little bit. You still have to have confidence, but you have to doubt yourself a little bit, especially when you're very much in early progression. Very likely that you've misinterpreted a lot of stuff. You go into the fight like thinking, okay, there's definitely some things that I probably don't got right, but this is how I think it works right now, and this is what I would describe if I were to make a mistake or something doesn't go right.
Okay. And so basically, in the end, you guys think it's important just to kind of force that communication to make sure that it helps the raid in the end go back and forth a little bit.
Force is a strong word, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not
it should-
exactly forcing, but you're like
Okay.
keeping people from like brooding and
Okay.
Yeah.
misinterpreting things.
Yeah, you promote an environment where discussion is accepted and like no people don't you were saying fear was one thing that people are afraid of. Like exactly, like people should not be afraid to admit errors. In fact, they should be afraid not to admit errors is how it really should be seen,
Yeah.
because that's even worse.
Right.
So and that's kind of like the environment is like, talk about it. We have to wait like 30 seconds on cooldowns, 60 seconds on cooldowns, like just like quick, just let the other 7 people group in and know that what went wrong there. And that's
Take
really
away
important.
like the shunning aspect of things,
Yeah.
and then like I guess
Yeah,
unless if it's
sniper
playful
rifle
shun, like it's somebody like, oh, I know he's gonna have fun with it if I make fun of him for it.
Like stuff like height error is usually loss of focus. I don't really need an explanation for someone making a height error or like getting hit by a dive bomb or something like that. It's like, oh, I'm tired, or like I don't like excuses. Like it's good to know if it's a pattern that keeps happening constantly. It's like, okay, they're probably doing something wrong with this mechanic. And we should talk about it. But if it's like once in a while, like height error and like those, that happens to random people all the time. And I know it's those one of those type of mechanics that as you do it more, it just slowly disappears as a problem. There's no reason to kind of dwell on those type of mechanics because it's just a matter of experience and not being distracted by everything else that's going on. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So let's just say everything we talked about failed. We have the worst player in the world, and has a bad attitude. He doesn't work with us. He doesn't understand how to read his abilities. He just can't get anything right?
He doesn't know what Adlo does.
Doesn't know what Adlo does. And you're just like, I can't do this anymore. If we have this person in our group, we are never going to progress. I'm not having fun with this person in a group. It's just this one person. How do you go about actually telling a player, hey, we can't have you in here anymore, and also make it to where your static doesn't break apart? Because there's been situations where it becomes a snowball effect. You remove one person and everything falls apart, and you're just like, well, whatever, we'll just go with it. And lots of people have experienced that. Is there a good way to go about that and prevent your static from kind of crumbling from that, if it's like maybe a member that some people didn't want to leave or anything like that? And I'll start with you, Ark, actually.
Sure. So I always like to make sure when I talk about this kind of stuff, there's a very clear distinction between the weakest link in your group and a player that's invalid with your group. You establish goals, you establish requirements, you have a set, you recruited like-minded players to your group. So an invalid member would be someone that doesn't meet the minimum requirements of your group. They can't meet your schedule. They can't meet. They don't agree with your style of rating. They dislike people in your group or the way they think, and they try and constantly change and stuff like that. Or if you set like a bar for performance or clear time as well, right? Like I expect this type of role to do this kind of thing in my group. It might be totally unrealistic or impossible, but you've set it like that. So anyone who comes into that position knows that they'll get kicked if they don't do that. And that's kind of up to the group and the leadership to ensure that they have, they set realistic expectations so they actually can recruit people. So that would be what I consider an invalid member. At any point, you can warn an invalid member or do whatever you want with an invalid member, remove them or not, because they don't fit with your group, and there's no reason to have them in the group. They're probably having less fun in your group than you, and they would do better in another group. Of course, you want to avoid mistakes. You talk to the player and make sure it's not something that's like a short-term thing, and you talk to your group and make sure that they agree with you as well. And then there's the other side of it, which is the weakest link, and the weakest link is not something you should kick from your group. I strongly disagree from kicking weakest links from your group, because if it's the weakest link but they're meeting all your minimum requirements, then there's really nothing there's nothing that could be done about it. Now you were talking about attitude and behavior. Of course, those are part of your requirements of your group, so that's still an invalid rater. But I'm talking specifically about performance. Like this person just does 5% less than everyone else, but it's not really blocking your group from clearing stuff. If you get into a pattern of kicking your weakest link, the group won't agree with you, and it's just an endless pattern because it'll always just leave someone else next in line if the weakest link was truly only a weakest link. So you really have to detect invalid raters that can't be a part of your group, and ensure you don't accidentally kick like a weakest link or something like that. Talk to your group about it, but there should be no disagreements about removing players that don't fit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms.
I agree.
Okay, you agree? Yeah.
It's kind of, so when I actually thought about this, I kind of break it down into two situations. One where it's like a brand new recruit, and that sort of counts like the invalid rater, like you said, because they're going to come into your group with like set expectations in place that they're going to either fulfill whatever role, they're going to follow whatever schedule, they're going to hopefully fit with the personality of your group. And if they don't reach that, or if they don't whatever, then a lot of the times they just simply don't fit. It's ow, hold on, the cat is like literally attacking my feet. And then I think the harder issue would be when it's like an established raider that's been with you for however long, and for whatever reason something's going wrong, like they don't have fun anymore, they are messing up, they no longer enjoy their class, they can't keep whatever DPS standard that they're aiming for or whatever. Those are always a lot harder. But I think it's the same thing. Like, just because you've been part of a group for like a year doesn't mean that the expectations are different for you. You are, hopefully everyone in the group is always living up to the expectations and the goals that you're all aiming for. And hopefully, best case scenario is if that ever happens with a longstanding member, they can see it themselves. They can see, okay, you know, I can't play anymore, or my schedule is completely wrong. I need to step down. And we've actually had that happen. And literally, it is the most respectable thing you can do. There's no hard feelings ever. No one is butthurt. You're like admirable for like taking the time and saying, listen, this is my problem. I don't think I can raid anymore. I really don't want to hold you guys back, but I think you need to replace me. But that's like the most admirable thing someone
I've had
can
people
do,
do that. It is the best way to, like, you have an opening to back into the group. You've burnt no bridges. People, like, you know, that's how you make friends. That's how you keep and make friends right there.
Yeah. And you can continue to play with them. Like, it's not like burning a bridge. But then there are people where it's the like worst case scenario where they're not pulling their weight. They're not interested in like doing whatever. And I think a lot of the times, or hopefully, or at least what I hope is happening, is they don't realize what they're doing. So a quick conversation, like a simple conversation with that person that says, hey, notice that you haven't really been coming on time for raid, or notice that you seem to not be having fun. Is there anything going on in your life that's like keeping you from whatever? And a lot of the times, hopefully, they can say, oh yeah, you know, like work's been really stressful, or oh crap, like I have a sick family member and I can't raid for like 2 weeks or something like that. And then they can say whether or not, or hopefully they realize that at that point they are holding back the 7 people that they've made this promise to. And hopefully they can either choose to fix it and move on from that, or you might have to have the conversation where you say, listen, like it's just not working anymore. It's not you, it's me, blah, blah, blah. Like,
I
you know, like think of it like a professional relationship. If at one point you have a team that just doesn't fit anymore, you might just have to let it go. It's not like a personal thing. It's not, I mean, it's obviously going to be a sad thing sometimes, but you have to have, as, you know, human beings, respect for one another to understand that things change. Like 2 years ago, I had no idea that I'd be raiding with these people. You know, like it's just the natural progression of your life, of your enjoyment of the game. And if stuff changes, go with it. Like you don't have to be upset that something's different, or that you can't find a solution. Because sometimes you just don't find a solution. Sometimes you just have to stop and end it. But I think over time you either reach a breaking point and you just say, get the fuck out, or excuse me, or you can come to a solution and say, okay, here are the errors that we're making. Here are the issues. How do we fix them? Is it worth fixing them, or should we just move on? But again, it all goes down to like communication and whether or not you can speak to these people and how open they are to it. But
I would always give an opportunity for someone to step down. Like that's like that's another thing from the other side of it. It's like, don't just kick them. Like talk to them, and in the conversation where you're like, okay, I know you've been in the group a long time, but you know, like, is it do you need to step down? Like, are you? Here's where I need you to be. Did you want to step down? Like, we can work it out maybe in 2 weeks. Maybe we can, like, you want to get a certain kill before you step down, stuff like that. Give them all those options. And, you know, if they're not very receptive to that kind of behavior, then yes, sometimes they need a hard push, which is usually in there. It's a mutual beneficial, even though probably one of them won't think so. It's like, there are a lot of raid groups out there, and there are a lot of raid groups that would fit different personalities. So it's not like they're not going to find a raid group where you basically just murdered someone or something like that, which they might make it seem like you did. But it's a mutually beneficial thing. It's really important that raid leaders, it's actually one of the worst things you can do is set up a player for failure or keep a bad player in the group, because you're just enabling them from getting worse and worse. And and they're not having fun the whole time. They're not having fun. You're not having fun. It's not a good thing to keep going. So yeah, just sometimes you have to give them the hard push, but it's like always like, you don't have to give them a hard push and say I hate your guts. You give them a hard push and it's like good luck to you. I know you hate my guts, but like once you come around, it's fine. We can like talk again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like a cooldown period. Like even if you end on a terrible note and you transfer servers without telling anyone because you're just so mad, like eventually you realize, okay, it really was not that big of a deal. Like we can be friends, we understand. And I think a lot of the times, anytime that happens, both parties are usually end up in a better place. Like
absolutely.
either
Always,
your original
always,
like you may not see it the next day, but further down the line, you're going to realize, okay, you know what? I found finally like a perfect group for me, or I found a perfect replacement for that person. And over time, you realize like, like you just have to like cut out not saying that players like that are tumors, but sometimes you just have to get rid of like what is holding you back. And a lot of the times in the long run, it's kind of like a bad relationship. Like in the long run, you're going to be much better for it.
Okay. And I've one of the worst situations where I had to remove somebody because they literally did everything they could to really make the raid into a horrible situation. I removed them completely. And eventually, later down the line, they're like, hey, man, I'm sorry. This is just kind of, it was a crappy situation. It didn't work out. I was like, yeah, it's fine. And, if we need to do stuff with them, that's fine. But I'm not going to, like, I probably won't have them in my raid again because I'm happy with the people who are in my raid. But, if it came to that situation, maybe it would be different.
Yeah, you gotta be respectful of how people thinking differently. You have someone in your group who thinks differently. It doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. You're not really one to judge them because they think differently than you. So how would you be able to judge how good they are at what they do? It's just a matter of it's like you're too different to work with us as a team. So we can do casual content together and we can be friends, but you can't be in my stack because you're slowing us down simply because you have a different style of doing stuff. It's like one great example would be like a player who never wants to look up guides because they only have fun doing blind runs and learning things from scratch. Being in a group where 7 other people look up guides exclusively and have very limited time and cannot waste time at all. That would be like a great example where that one player could be very skilled and very good at doing blind runs through content. They might be better suited for hardcore progression or suited for just groups that like doing that. But they're in a group that doesn't like doing that. So it's like they could have more fun in another group. Your group could have more fun with another player that would like love to be in a group that like they're seeking a group exactly that thinks the way you do. Mm-hmm. So and then it's just like you gotta move around when things don't match. Like make things match and work.
Mm-hmm. It's all about expectations of what your static is trying to accomplish or whatever. So when you enter a group or when you're looking for a static, you basically are trying to find 7 other people that are just like you, that are looking for the same goals, same sort of thing. And that's probably the hardest thing you will ever do in this game.
And people change too. People change.
Exactly.
That's very important to remember that. Have a conversation at the end of every tier when you're successful or you're moving into something else. Have a conversation. Make sure you know exactly what people want and how they've changed. Do they want to play a new class? Do they want to go to hardcore progression? Do they want to be more casual? Do they want to change the schedule? Talk to every single one in your group. Make sure, or have a conversation as a group and be like, who's ready to do the exact same thing we did again, or what should we change?
Yep.
And you start doing 100%. Recruitment or whatever you need. Yeah. Or who's going to quit the game too? Stuff like that. Who's taking a break? Stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep. And to go on a second tangent here, it looks like the mods are just like knocking people out in chat. I don't know even what's happening. Just people get timed out. But I don't know what's going on, guys. Be careful. They got them hammers out. All right. So next part, I want to kind of finish up this topic before we go into some of these little additional points that I have listed here. Is basically when all this stuff happens, people do develop a raid reputation, right? It's not like you can just join 3 groups, get kicked out because you called them MF and just told them they all suck, and just you can build this reputation where people are not going to want you in their raid anymore. And I know this exists because if I'm looking for someone and someone's like, hey, can I join your group? I'm going to go to my sources of people I know and say, hey, is this person a good person to be in my group? And that can be a lot of people, and they might come and say, hey, yeah, no, that person did this and this and this. You probably don't want them in there. They ninja'd all this loot and they did this. It's hard to kind of repair from that kind of stuff. Have you guys ran into situations where people have built these kind of reps where no one will take them in a group at all?
I personally haven't, but I'm also oblivious sometimes when it comes to our server. So maybe it's something like that. But I think I don't know. It's such a hard thing to say for stuff like that because I think people deserve the chance if they meet your expectations. Like, say you put out your static and this is what you're hoping for a DPS with X damage on X boss. And if they come to you and they offer you that and they give you the logs, they give you the experience or whatever, I think it's fair to sort of ignore what people will personally say about the person because I don't think it's really fair to have like that bias before they are given the chance to prove themselves to you. And I think that's sort of like in real life as well, where I don't know, maybe a little more or less to a degree, but
It's
I
even
don't
more
know.
complicated in real life.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I think playing a video game sometimes there could be things that get lost in translation. Like even things over TeamSpeak or there's some sort of disagreement that happens, some miscommunication that you will never know the full story to unless you were part of that situation, right? So I think if someone were to come to you with like this horrible reputation, unless their reputation is like they murder puppies or something, or they're just like a terrible person, I think they would deserve at least, I mean, if they fit, or if you think that they would fit their group, they should at least somehow get some sort of ability to show you
Yeah.
what they can do. Because you never know. It could have just been completely that they didn't fit with those people.
Yep,
Completely
that's
different
right.
personalities. They could be like your best player and without giving them the chance, because who knows what people randomly gossip about. They might never have the chance or the ability to prove that to you. So I try not to listen to stuff like that. I find it stupid, but
Yep.
I like to look at the evidence, like Ark was saying earlier. Like if they can provide you with DPS and if they're not like dicks or anything and they can fit with your group, what more do you need? Right?
Yeah,
Like who
they
cares?
can't hide that kind of stuff too. Like you have it's like this person is saying they can do this stuff. Have a conversation with them on like just whatever voice chat you have. Talk to them. Do a couple like bring them in. Like if you talk to them and you don't detect any of those problems, and then you go into the group and they're perfectly fine. Yeah, it does happen. People get more often than not, people get a bad repetition because they have done things poorly. That is the most common case. So it's easy for you to think that way. I will still give people a chance, even if they have a bad reputation. They've done nothing but wrong to me or my friends on the server or anything like that. Everyone's like, I don't know why this person seemed like such a bad player. But what can happen is exactly what Mizzteq said. They are not a good fit for a group, and then the group kicks them and calls them the devil or something like that. I'm like, what is
Yeah,
like
and goes
going
on
on
like
here?
a witch hunt for no reason.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like it's just because like it could be something like this player was like extremely casual and he joined a hardcore group or something like that. Like, and it's like okay, so then he'll do fine in a casual group or something like that. And maybe this group didn't advertise that they were hardcore, or maybe they changed hardcore last. Like there are definitely bad, poorly organized groups out there that do treat players really poorly. And it's really funny when I get really good players and I talk to them. I'm like, how are you not in a group? And it's like, oh, I've been like abused by like 5 different groups. And it's like, what? It's like, how's that happening? Like, how do you keep finding bad groups when you're such a good player?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's actually go into some viewer questions here real quick, because some have built up, and I want to knock some of these out.
Sure.
One of the first ones here actually goes into one of the points that we're going to talk about, and I figure we might as well go ahead and ask it. Niabari, I think that's how you say your name. How does being part of a couple impact how you interact with the rest of your raid? And so I guess I want to add on to this question, kind of hijack it a little bit. So when people come into your group as couples, do you have to kind of treat them as one entity, or do you treat them as individuals? How do you guys usually handle that?
So go first.
Me?
Yep, you can go. It's fine.
Well, I can actually answer this question being like part or one half of a couple or something in a raid group. So I think when it comes to it, like our raid leader doesn't see, like we are separate entities, and inside the raid atmosphere, we are not a couple. We don't air our dirty laundry. We don't like have fights over TeamSpeak or something during raid. Like, not that I think ever really happens usually, but like it's like, I don't know, there's no preferential treatment. There is no difference in how or what our expectations would be. Like if I fuck up, it's on me. It has nothing to do with Braddock. If I get yelled at, he's not going to jump in and be like, "Excuse me, my lady, I have to like save you from this verbal onslaught." No, like it's just, I think again with that maturity and whatever, you kind of learn that when you are in a group, and yes, you might be in a relationship with someone else in that group that's a little bit more serious than me and Zays, I guess, our raid leader. I think it comes down to the respect and the maturity. Like, you're there to offer your services as a tank or whatever. And if your relationship is getting in the way of that, then that's a problem. And that's holding your raid group back or whatever. And I think as a raid leader, I'm guessing this is what happens because I don't raid lead, obviously. But I feel like it's important to not let that impact how you would treat certain people, or how you would, like, you shouldn't be afraid to offer critique just because of you're afraid that another person's going to jump in and try to like wage war against you. Like, it shouldn't be a thing. It shouldn't be a thing in real life. It shouldn't be a thing in the raid environment. Like,
yeah, and I definitely agree with that. I mean, again, everyone on this call right now are raid members who are in a couple and raid in the same group. And myself and Ark are both raid leaders in a couple in the same group. So we kind of, I have to deal with it a good bit. But I mean, I guess it depends on the situation. Like, if I'm in a group and someone's a complete, hey, go make me a sandwich or something, I get a little bit triggered. I try to keep myself a little bit not so bad, but if it's just some, and if it's a joke, whatever. But when it's like someone seriously being a complete asshole for no reason at all, then I get a little bit. But I mean, if it's something about the group, I'm on a Skype call the entire time I'm raiding with Kerr every single time. We're talking, outside of TeamSpeak, we're talking to each other. And so I'm like, hey, what happened there? And we figure out what's going on in raid. And we talk like a good healer group would talk, I guess. And so it works out really well for us because we're not really afraid too much to communicate with each other and say, hey, what went wrong here? How do we make this better? And we don't even have to put that in TeamSpeak. We just knock it out. And you guys both raid, I'm assuming, do you guys raid next to...
He's behind the green screen.
Oh, he's behind the green screen.
So I was like, where was the cooldown? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yeah. And then Ark, Izzy raids right next to you, right?
Yeah, that's my left here.
Yeah. And so you guys have really good communication to go between each other, and so you don't. It actually makes things better in the end. I think it makes things a little bit better in the end.
No, it goes both ways. Like, there's not really a reason for. So first off, like, again, no special treatment in a group ever. Under no circumstances, there's not an excuse for special treatment. If you're giving special treatment, you're doing something wrong. If you have an inner circle of core members that you treat better than your outsiders, you're never going to have a successful group. It's always going to be like a challenge to keep things going. Or you're not hitting your full potential. So that goes with anything. Like, even if it's a couple, like, and they have their own little thing going on and you're giving them some special treatment because it's like, oh no, we'll lose 2 players if one of them get upset. It's like, you can't think of that like that way. That is one of the cons of bringing a couple in, is that yes, if something goes wrong with one, you're probably losing both. It's not that big a deal. Like, you can replace 2 people. If there was a valid reason for them both to leave, then your group's going to stay happy. If it wasn't a valid reason for them to leave, then it's a problem. But yes, they should be treated as separate individuals, and they're expected to execute their roles properly. And when done well, they are really strong as a team. Like, there's very high teamwork and communication. Not to mention, when I'm raid leading, it's nice to have someone who kind of grounds me to like being a regular raider and just kind of stays out of it. It's like, like, people don't like it when you do stuff like this. I'm like, really? Okay, well, I guess that is immediate direct feedback coming from someone who's like probably looking out for my best interest. Well, actually, I can trust is looking out for my best interest. So without a doubt. So it's very, very good.
Yeah, no, and I got completely made fun of by Kerr about the whole scholar thing with the Adler thing. So like, I didn't get any kind of like, oh, it's all right. She was like, what an idiot, So
it's twice as good when it's good, and it's twice as bad when it's bad. So so when people see the twice as bad part, you're very pessimistic about the concept, but it can be very, very good. It's also great for when you're starting out a group and you're trying to like fill a lot of spots, and those couple deals are really great for getting your group together at a minimum level. And of course, you got to be very careful with recruitment and who you're pulling in, but it's a good starting point. Like, you say you need to fill, let's say 5 spots, and you get 2 couples and 1 player. And then the next tier, one of the couples weren't doing too well, or they not a good fit, or both of them were. It's still like you can build your group and fill like the big parts of the spots they're missing, and slowly build it up to maybe something you're more looking for. Maybe one of the couples is amazing and they stay in. But you have a lot of spots to fill, and couples do struggle to find groups that fit them sometimes, very often, because you're finding 2 roles it's hard to find 2 roles that are with those open slots very specifically, unless the group is like newly forming or reforming. So they're very helpful to kind of like I don't want to like this might sound bad like as a stepping stone, but they might not necessarily be a stepping stone. But it's good to get your group going.
Like if you're starting a group, like you could reach out to these people, and they would be a good building block.
It's a good starting point, and if they do everything they need to stay in the group, then you keep them, because they're not. It's not necessarily something that's wrong about them. It's just there's you shouldn't look at them like, oh my goodness, like not a couple package. This is terrible. It's like no, it's like this could actually be very useful and helpful to me right now, and this could make our group amazing. Is more what they should be thinking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the next question here. Anonymous. Did he really get that name in Twitch? That's good. He asked, who is the leader of Mizzteq's group? I think you've already mentioned it once, but you can go ahead and...
It's not me.
It's
For
not
some
you?
reason, people think that I, like, do everything, but I really don't. I'm just, like, a peon in the group. His name is Zaze. If you ever watch my stream, he is the sassy one, and he's, I don't know.
Can you do a sassy
awesome.
impression of him?
Probably not. It would not do him justice. But
Okay.
I don't know. He's really good. Like, I know a lot of people, when they first hear him, they're like, oh my God, that guy is so intense. But at the same time, he has helped like almost everyone in our group be better. Like, he, in his own way, like in his very intense and sassy way, has taken people that were like okay at the game or good at the game and has like pushed them to be really good. So I don't know. I don't know why I just randomly went on a tangent, but
No, it's good. No, that's part of it.
So
Okay.
that's the good aspects of a leader. It's
Yeah,
exactly
there you go. Exactly.
You know what I always
I
say?
do that.
I always say that everyone's capable of being good raiders. Everyone. I always believe that truly, that like even the worst player in the world, whatever their problem is, if they were willing to and interested in, you could bring them up to being one of the best players in the well, it's not the sorry, that's not what I meant. They would be a raider who could clear content, any of this content. It's like, and it might even require a little bit of extra help from whatever that static is. But as long as a group of 8 players work together and are supportive and build on each other, they can clear any content. And that's really the thing that I think the Final Fantasy XIV community should really strive for. Is just like making it so players can get together and clear this content, no matter what they are, right? No matter what their skill is.
Yep. All right. So Barbaron had a question here. Do you ever feel raid members, or do you ever encourage raid members to play other games together to try and keep relations going when content is down?
I could probably answer this. I don't think you should try to force stuff like that, because when it's forced, it's not fun. But for example, if you guys are basically good friends when you're playing Final Fantasy, or you become good friends, I think naturally you will start to play other games together too. Like, for example, when Overwatch Open Beta was out, like almost our entire raid group was playing together. And I don't know, like, it helps to strengthen your relationship, but I don't think it's necessary, because I don't think it's like the responsibility of your raid leader to make sure you're having fun outside of the raid, or even in the raid for that matter. Like, I think it's always up to you to have fun. And if you find that you want or you need to play other games with your raid members, then you'll find a way to do that naturally. But you can't exactly force, and sometimes you can't exactly force other people to play games with you too. It's all about just having fun naturally. Like, there's no, I think a lot of the times, anytime something is done for fun and it's forced on people, it's just, it ends up being like resented, I think, right? Yeah. So you can, like, that's a good way to like team build, I guess, if you want, but I don't think it's necessary. You don't need it to be a strong raid group.
Yeah, I don't think it's a complete requirement either. Like, our raid group doesn't do a lot of stuff. I mean, every once in a while we do stuff outside of the game, but we don't do a lot out of it. But I will say, and everyone's gonna, I'm almost tired of hearing the word Overwatch, because I don't think I've like stopped hearing it a day over the last few months. But
that means you haven't played it enough.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, we had a situation where 2 people were out one Friday, and it was really hard to replace them. And on our server, it's not very easy to find replacements, especially when you're going into A6 and you're using these vortexer strategies that people don't understand. And it works for our group, but it might not work with other people who are trying to clear it. And
Yeah.
And so instead of dealing with a frustrating Friday night of trying to just mess with all that, they were like, there's 6 of us. Let's just go play Overwatch. And we just played Overwatch the entire raid night, and it was a good night. We didn't feel like we lost anything. we still had fun with it. So
I
would,
as long as the whole group's happy.
yeah, I mean, and you don't say, hey, you have to come play with me. Just say, hey, if you guys, this is what we're going to do tonight. 5 out of 6 people said we're going to do this. We're going to do it. If the 6th person doesn't want to come, it's okay. It's not going to hold us back. That's just how the night's going to be. Okay, so let's go to Solo 9. How did each of them deal with integrating new static members, both those that fit in and didn't fit in? So I guess that's more of like, how do you find new static members and how do you get them used to your group? And Ark, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I have like a couple of things I'm tentatively like we're very non-competitive, so when I talk to people about joining our static or anything like that, it's I'm checking for signs that they're competitive, like if signs that they're like there are definitely players that are amazingly skilled, and I just didn't contact them back because I was like, they're saying things that made it sound like, I kind of want to like take a week off, or I kind of want to beat this group, or I want to be at this point in progression to beat this. Like, it sounds like they're very competitive. I'm like, okay, that's definitely, like, if I bring in someone competitive to this group, they're gonna hate it. They're gonna hate it in our group because that's not what we're doing at all. And so I just look for like signs of like, I just have an open conversation. I'm like, I'm say stuff like, it's like, here's our weaknesses. Here's what we don't do well. Here's what we do well. Here's what we're about. I don't lie about a single thing. And if they're like, yep, that sounds good, and then I will have a conversation. Like, I don't just look for like a response that's like, yes, I agree. I look for like, okay, and tell me how you kind of have similar situations that match up with me. Once I find out that we're very like-minded and we're comfortable with the amount of experience they have, or what they're going to have to kind of do to kind of get used to the group and stuff like that, I just bring them in and treat them like every other group, regardless. Like I said, I'm very strict about no special treatment. Like, a new player in my group gets treated as well as the oldest member of my group, or the one with the most seniority. Like, they're getting, it's like, oh, here's this new player and he doesn't have that much loot. Let's give him a bunch of loot. It's like, because that's what helps assist our group. I'm that confident with the conversation we had. Yeah.
So you're not a person that says you have to earn your place to get like
No.
in the gear treatment.
No special treatment.
That sounds good. Yeah. So, this is another question that was aimed towards Ark. But I mean, we've already answered this question, so you can just say it real quick, 2 seconds. IBIF wanted to know, how do you kick a long-standing member of your static without any notification, or do you talk to him first? And pretty much we already went into this. You talk to him every time.
Yeah, I give them tons of notice and give them every opportunity to step down or improve. And then I'm probably too easy on players, actually. Like, I almost, like, in some cases I've given players like almost an entire tier, even though I knew I was kind of setting them up for failure, because I'm like, there's no way that you're going to be able to keep up. It kind of occurred because this Midas tier, I expected it to be like joke easy the way it was being described.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, it'll be fine. Like, this will be a good opportunity for them maybe to get through it and stuff like that. But no, it's you really just want to have the conversation, give them an opportunity to improve, give them an opportunity to step down if they don't agree. Like, if they don't agree with you, that it's like, no, your assessment of me is wrong. It's like, okay, well, I'm always going to think this, so you might want to step down. Because it's like, you can't convince me otherwise by just saying I'm wrong. Okay. So yeah,
I can kind of add on that too.
Yeah.
Like, this is more of like the mindset of like a new recruit, where they enter the static with whatever expectations, and then as the weeks progress, for however long your trial period is, or however long they're in probation or whatever, I think giving them like not even like daily updates, but even like weekly updates on how they're doing will help, because then they know what is happening. They're not going to get blindsided by you coming in and being like, hey, you suck, leave. It's a constant conversation basically with that person, and they should hopefully always know, either personally or from people telling them how they're fitting in, how they're doing. When it comes to like long-standing members, that's always the hardest part, I think. But again, it's the same thing. Like, if you notice something happening, like say they are all of a sudden very passive aggressive and they're not having fun, or they're burnt out or something, like, open up that communication. Like, don't just randomly kick them and pretend you don't know who they are when they message you and are like, what the hell?
Exactly.
You should have, like, again, it all boils down to respect, maturity, communication. Talk to them. They are a human being. They're not gonna like explode from you bringing up a topic. Just go to them and say, hey, I've noticed that this is happening. You have all these sorts of problems that are directly impacting our raid. What can we do to fix it? And then start the conversation from there. If in the end you have to kick them or they have to step down, then so be it. At least you did it in a dignified way. Like, they're not, I don't know, action figures that you can just throw out the window. You have to.
Yeah, they're human
treat
beings.
Do you
them-
throw
yeah.
action figures out the window?
I did when I was a kid. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, that's good. All right. So, Mizzteq, I actually have another question here for you from Nick's Valentine. What is your approach to helping others improve? I met a lot of people who can't take constructive criticism, so we could probably just focus on how do you deal with people who can't take constructive criticism?
Sometimes if they absolutely cannot take constructive criticism, I just don't deal with them, to be honest. Like, I don't have the time to waste on people that are a wall and not willing to learn. Like, I can't. I do what I can, and if they don't want to continue the conversation, then what can you do? I know that sounds really harsh, but I feel like it's a two-way street. You have to, when you're giving criticism or you're trying to help someone, you kind of want them to work with you. But if they are stonewalling you, if they are not at all interested, if they just take things what you say personally, when you don't mean them personally, you're just, actively trying to help. Like, there's not much you can do. Like, I know it sounds kind of like a dead-end answer, but it's...
You're correct, though.
What do you do? I don't know.
If you're trying to be respectful and give them constant feedback, and you get blocked off from even talking to them, and they take it personal enough that you're just trying to do like, as a raider, I'm just trying to do my role. If I'm making enemies and making people personally hate me because I'm just trying to run a group, it sucks. It sucks a lot, and there's nothing you can do, and nothing can be done. It's like I have to be cruel here and like give you a really hard push out of the group because I can't even talk to you and you don't like me. So
Yeah.
There's only so much one person can do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And if you're having a situation where you try to say something and the guy's just not responding to you, it's like, I don't care, you suck.
Yeah.
Well, all right, we're done with this conversation.
Don't tell me how to play my class.
Yeah.
Like, for real. Like, they're not even joking about it. They actually mean it.
From their perspective, it's like, if they don't respect you, why are they in the group? Just leave.
Yeah.
Just leave.
To be honest, I don't think you come across those types of people too often.
No,
but
you don't.
I don't know.
Okay, let's go into a completely different question here from Dos Costos, I think, maybe? I don't know. Would you guys want a new Final Fantasy MMO, and how long do you think Final Fantasy 14 will last? That's pretty much a straightforward, right?
They said 10 years, didn't they?
I don't know. I just imagine that it's going to last as long as 11 did. Or it's still going, so yeah. Yeah, I don't expect it to like really fizzle out. Yeah, and I think that right now, if the new MMO for Final Fantasy came out, I'd probably play it. Mm-hmm. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't switch to playing it, because that means that they built a system from things they've learned from Final Fantasy 14. But then we saw what happened with 1.0, but, they'll throw a meteor on it.
Hopefully they learn from that, too.
They'll just blow it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I expect that, within 10 years, there's probably something, we'll hear rumors of it or something. Oh, sorry, 10 years.
10 years, oh my god. I'm just thinking about how old I'm going to be in 10 years.
I meant, so what is it, 7 years from now? Something like that. I meant 10 years of the game's life.
It'll be VR by then, too, right?
It's already VR. You can play it in VR.
Final Fantasy 14, you could play it as a desktop in VR,
True.
but you can't play it
You can't be
I fisheyed it before. I fisheyed VR with Final Fantasy 14 as a bard and tried to level up. It didn't go as well as I thought it would. It was interesting. But it didn't work out as I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And they did do the Titan VR thing, so they have the ability to kind of mess around with it. So I expect the next MMO to be VR, and I'm looking forward to that. That's if Sword Art Online doesn't keep me in it, doesn't trap me in their game. Okay.
It wasn't that bad. It was a little bit fun.
What, the fisheye?
Sword Art Online.
Oh, Sword Art Online.
To play a game nonstop for a year.
Yeah, I mean, and you die. What's the point? Yeah. I don't know if Mizzteq's ever seen Sword Art Online.
No.
Okay.
No. You might like it. It's a VR MMO, so it's an anime on a VR MMO. Maybe you'll like it. All right, hold on. We got to ask the important question. And Mizzteq, do you watch a lot of anime?
Okay, so we talk about this in my stream all the time. I don't watch it as much anymore because I can't read subtitles while I'm playing video games, and I usually like to watch TV or TV shows or movies or whatever while I'm doing something else. So I don't like sit and just watch anime. I feel like sometimes it's like wasting my time when I could be playing a video game at the same time. But and I know people are like, "Oh, just watch dubbed versions." And then I'm like, I don't know, like I don't know if it's worth like if I'm going to do something, I'm probably going to do the best something possible, right? Like why would I don't know. So I've like stopped watching it just because of that alone. And I'll watch like sometimes at work it's really slow and I'll watch some stuff there, but I'm not actively watching anime, I think, at this point in my life.
And Ark is like the polar opposite here.
It's like almost all I watch, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing he does outside of the game is watch anime.
Yeah, but I do know what you're talking about like trying to do two things at once. It's like spoken like someone who definitely has a full-time job. It's like I have to be doing two things at once.
Yeah.
If I'm playing, especially if you play an MMO. It's like, okay, if I want to catch up on this thing I'm watching, I have to be playing a video game. Like Easy's over here PvPing and listening to MogTalk at the same time. So
yeah, like
we're both in the same boat.
You have to fill your time as much as possible. Otherwise, I feel like I'm wasting.
All right, so next question we have is Nick's Valentine. So Ark and Mizzteq, do you think it's important to find the same people who are as good as you when forming a static? I believe that you are good as the shittiest player in your group since he or she will be wiping you. So like your weakest link is as good as your group is going to be, basically. Do you guys, that's what you look for, right? When you're looking for new members, you're like, are they going to fit with our skill level in our group? Or do you just, is that kind of a non-factor?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. It's like what I find is that skill is one of the things I look at kind of almost last, if funny enough, because and which is why I'm so confident when I'm doing recruitment that I don't need to do a trial, because if they're like-minded enough and share the same goals as the group, it's likely they're going to seek it and they'll fill any gaps they need to with skill. There's definitely going to be extreme cases out there where it's like for some reason they have like terrible internet connection or they're just not able to learn their class ever, but you usually pick up on some of that stuff while you're talking to them. No, it's like I can invite people who are better than me, and it should be fine as long as they actually are honestly saying what they want. It's like if I say we're going to clear, I know what I'm capable of doing. So if I invite someone better than me, maybe they have they have a job and they're very, very skilled players. They could have the potential to be like top world progression players, but they have responsibilities that make them have to play at a lower level. Or maybe they're just comfortable playing it with a group where they are always above the rest, right? And that's just, they find that a little bit more relaxing. There's no pressure on them because they're already so amazing or already so ahead. So it's something that I'm very open to. Like I don't mind being the weakest link in my group if that ever kind of comes up to that point. It's actually pretty easy to manage if I am, because it's like I know I am, so that means that I can never show up to raid late. Always have to work twice as hard, and at least I know that I trust myself enough to do that kind of stuff. So it's not so bad. So it could happen, and it's more about, again, as long as your goals align, you can play with people from all different types of skills, and you can bring in new players and bring them up to what you need them to, right? Work with them.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what you said. It's all about goals aligning. So, because I feel like when you're accepting someone or when you're trying to find people for your static, it's not one thing that you are, like judging them by. You are looking for a bunch of things, and all of those things have to fit with what your expectations are and what your group is looking for. So I don't know. I feel like skill is one of like 15 factors that you're looking.
That's a good way to put it. Yes. That's
so
right.
Sure, sometimes, and also I feel like skill sometimes is depends on the fight, because we've had some really amazing players that they'll enter a random fight where there's just that one mechanic that just whoops their butt. Like they, for whatever reason, cannot wrap their head around how it works. And that they're great, and that something's just messed up in their brain that they don't understand it. But at the same time, that already their personality fits. They're open to communication. They're open to criticism. That you can comfortably figure it out with them and figure out what's going on, because to begin with, like you've found someone that works with your raid group and fits in or ticks off all those boxes that you look for at the beginning.
All right. Those are both excellent answers to that. Ton Barian had a question. When you, what do you do when those two raid members start over discussing the pointless details or a mechanic plus for like 5 minutes while everyone else is just kind of sitting there waiting? So this kind of harps back to our banter part of the discussion. And so how do you shut people up?
Like this, you go, shut up.
Shut up?
Was it? I was wondering about the situation. Was it like a situation where like the people needed to talk about that mechanic, or was it a situation like? I forget from the question. Did they make it sound like it was like
they said it was
just
about a mechanic? Let me go back to it. Pointless details are a mechanic. So I guess like maybe overthinking a situation a little bit too much. Like, should we move a little bit more over here?
Yeah, that's a good point.
When it's not really that big of a deal, it just makes it a little bit nicer. But they go on for 5 minutes talking about that.
Yeah, let's go with the opinion that the like, because sometimes it's hard to tell. Like if it's an important detail, like where should we use this? Where should we use our immunity cooldown so the tank doesn't instantly get one shot? And then we talk about that for a bit for moments. That's different. But yeah, if it's the conversation along the lines of this is like, moving a marker around, or it's like, I want to do like 10 more DPS over the entire fight. How do I do this? Stuff like that. Yes, I agree with Mizzteq. Shut up.
Yeah, well, I think things like mechanic discussions probably shouldn't ever take that long.
Okay.
And if they do, you need some sort of other
Like a
platform for that. Well, yeah, sure. Like if it's something that is absolutely necessary, like you have to figure this out and it's going to take some time, then you might as well, take a break while those two people discuss it. But I feel like a lot of the heavy hitting mechanics like that are usually discussed either outside of raid, say you have forums set up, talk about it in there. But if you're going, or at the beginning of raid, say like before you even start raiding and you have like a huge question that's going to take a while to explain or to be explained to you, do it when it's like least obstructive. But at the same time, I can sort of understand needing to talk about something in the middle of raid because you can't continue without having that discussion.
Right.
But again, I don't think even discussions that intense will take that long, hopefully. And if they are, then there's like a huge communication problem and you guys need to learn how to speak to each other.
Yeah. It can happen when there's
have...
not a lot of... Sorry, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it can happen when there's not a lot of information on fights yet. The more, the quicker your group is, the more likely you are to get into scenarios where you probably will have a lot of discussions in raid, because you can't actually preemptively look up anything. So
exactly, and if you need that, then go for it. But I think at the same time, even the people discussing it should know when it's too excessive or when they need to stop. Or you could also limit your raids, like say, okay, we have 5 minutes waiting on Hollowed Ground cooldown. Go ahead and talk about it now, and just have input from everyone. Like have everyone moderate each other's like discussion. If you feel like they're just repeating themselves, or if you have a way to better express what one person is trying to say, like pop in there, say what you need to say, and just try to move it along as much as possible. But if it's something stupid like, oh my god, did you watch? I was gonna say Arrow again. Oh my god. I don't know why it's even on my mind. But...
I trust the other people. If I'm ever in this situation, I'm actually the one doing that. I trust the other people in my group to call me out on that. There are a bunch of other people in the group. Like if they care, they should just like, this is the honesty thing again. Like just be honest. Like, and then I could be honest back to them. It's like, I actually think this is important this time, or I could be like, yeah, you're right. We'll just talk about it.
Yeah.
And Tom Barian did kind of clarify there a little bit about it, saying if it was something that was maybe like a fluke and they spend 5 minutes discussing, like you've never wiped to it before, it's not something that you guys ever really have to deal with, but just like that one time it happened, like I guess maybe the first time in like 3 nights.
Bother me. Unexplainable things bother me quite a bit, but
I think that comes from experience, because as you get better or as you are more confident in your own abilities, you're gonna come across situations that are complete flukes, or immediately you know what went wrong or what crazy thing happened, and you can confidently say that will never happen again. We know how to handle it if it does. But I think it's just recognizing whether or not it's like a fluke like that, whether it's even worth discussing or whether it's just better for you to just jump right back in there. And I think as you play more, you eventually can just sort of immediately weed that stuff out.
Okay.
Yeah, when it comes to flukes, it's like, how deep in the fight are we talking? Because if it's a fluke that occurred towards the end of a 12-minute fight, I'm talking about that thing until we know exactly what happened. I don't care what anyone says.
Wipe again.
Yeah, especially if you're in progression. Like for example, like on 8S, that remember I told you about this mechanic, Frosty, where the super jump is sometimes appeared to target someone randomly, and then we were like, this was bothering us a lot, and we lost really good attempts on it sometimes.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, this is a fluke. We can't describe it. We talked about it a little bit in Raid, but we had to look it up after, and it like had the 2 different targeting methods. If everyone was too close, it was random, and you needed one person to be very far away, not just the furthest. And that was definitely a fluke that kept occurring, and it was really annoying. So, yeah, would have loved to figure that one out in the middle of Raid, no matter how much talking it was required to do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's actually really good. That kind of makes it a good fine point. Hey, sometimes we do need to talk about these things that just don't make sense, because they will cost you, if they cost you a couple wipes a night, that's still 2 attempts that you lost throughout that night.
Especially, again, how deep are you making these flukes occurring?
Yeah, because it's like 13 minutes in and you wipe again.
Yeah.
It's very disheartening sometimes.
Exactly. All right, Lowell's all right. I think that's how I say his name. What advice, and this is a pretty good question, I think, what advice do you have for someone who wants to join a raid group but is nervous about playing with 7 other people they don't know? So this is kind of a new player question. And I'll let you go first, Miz.
That's a good question, because I actually suffer from this too. I get really nervous, even after playing a year with these people. Like, I will like sit there and I'll be like shaking because I'm like, oh God. And my brain, for some reason, just decides to be scared that day, and that's just what happens. So I can totally understand the perspective. Coming into a brand new raid group, you're the only person that's new. The rest of the people have had relationships for however much time, and it's very intimidating, so I can understand that. But at the same time, I feel like there's really no way around that other than just sucking it up and like putting yourself out there. So I can understand a lot of people are very shy, and if you are shy, just let your actions speak for yourself. Like, if you don't enjoy, if you can't express yourself properly, play to the best of your ability, because that will always shine through what you have to say sometimes. So like, there are so many people I know that like never speak, but they are really, really good players, and a lot of the times that's enough for most people. It's enough for most statics, and they're fine. They'll work with it. I think the problems are when you aren't speaking, but at the same time either not pulling your weight or fucking stuff up, or you're messing up a mechanic and you can't express that. That's when the issues arise. So I would say, if you're shy about speaking, or if you're shy about joining a new group, just try to do what you can, be good at what you do.
Ask
and
questions. Ask questions, please.
Yep.
Ask questions. It's the best thing you can do.
That's very true.
It's like, I don't know something, I'll ask how to do it. People will tell you how to do it, then you do it right. It's the greatest thing in the world. I don't know why people don't ask more questions.
Yeah,
it is easy. Yeah.
And it makes everyone feel good. Like,
it's like I don't want to have to explain everything about the fight to you. Just ask what you don't know, and we'll get you onboarded into our group strategy or a fight in like 5 minutes. And that's all it takes. Yes, asking us questions is like a good sign of a really good raider.
Okay. So that's, again, really good. You guys are giving out some really good information today. I was expecting just lots of puns. I wasn't expecting like any really good information here, to be honest with you. All right. So the last one from Nick's Valentine. We got a couple more questions, but from him in particular, because he had a lot of questions. Ark and Mizzteq, do you think people should watch and research the fight well enough before entering it, instead of going in blind after, world progression? I guess world progression would be the one that would be going in blind the most. I personally go into fights knowing enough to clear. What do you guys think about, people having to know every single thing about the fight to clear that night on their first attempt?
I think that's all based on your own statics expectations. If your static is, everyone needs to be on the same page, everyone should at least know up to phase 3 off by heart or whatever, then I think you being in that group should follow the same protocol, I guess. But if you already said, I'm in a group that's going to go in completely blind, regardless of whatever night we're working on it, then I guess that's what you do. It's, again, all based on what your static is expecting of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is hold on. We got some good questions here. Some of them are kind of jokey, but this one is kind of a semi-serious question. So I'm gonna ask this one first here. And we can kind of relate to this a little bit. How do groups handle I guess, the popularity surrounding prominent streamers in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm not sure exactly what this was aimed at, more of just like, is your group okay with you streaming? I think that's more of the question. So are they okay with your streaming? Do they cope with that well? Do they have any issues with it?
The main issue is, and this I can speak because we have two people that stream in our group. We have myself and Mizzteq, and the main issue that I think has only ever been an issue is anytime we're too focused on chat, we're too focused on our stream that we're not paying attention to raid, and it happens. But I think when we started this new group, or I guess anytime there's like a new person coming in, that's like one of the first things we say. We say, listen, we do stream. We do have VODs that are going to be on the internet for like 6 months. We do post videos on YouTube. You know, like there's going to be evidence of you fucking up, including myself, obviously. Are you okay with that? Like, are you fine with that? And they'll say either yes or no and go from there. But I think the hardest thing being a streamer and a raider at the same time is just the focus, because I have issues doing more than one thing at once. So there are moments where either my stream suffers because I'm really focused, and I think over time people have come to understand that with the hashtag raidface. But at the same time, there are days when I actually have to take off time from streaming just to give the group the focus that it deserves, and that's like a hard balance sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I mean, my group kind of jokes with me every time. They're like, "Oh, well, if you want to get a hold of him, you got to talk in Twitch chat." Like, and I mean, there are situations like that. But when I'm raiding, I have to be like super serious too. I have to go in there and I gotta say, "All right, I gotta focus on this fight." And that's kind of my thing I do in between cooldown checks. I'm saying, "All right, well, let me see and talk to chat for a little bit while I'm waiting 2 minutes on battle voice, or 3.5 minutes on battle voice in some cases there." I figure that's what people, if as long as the expectations again are met with the people in your group, they know, hey, I'm coming into a group that is going to have a streamer in there, and there's things that could actually kill me because maybe they lost focus for half a second when someone donated $10,000. Hint, guys. No, anyways. Yeah, no, I mean, when these situations happen, you gotta just kind of expect it. And if you don't enjoy that kind of situation happening and you are gonna take it the wrong way, then you probably shouldn't be in that group. Ark, do you have any other comments on that you want to throw in?
I just always make sure that I make sure people are comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Thing, yeah. But my whole like mentality is always transparency. Like I want to live log everything we do. I want everything we do to be recorded, so that way, if I'm ever lying, people can just call me on my shit. You know, like, it's like, how long did it take you to get through this? This long. It's like, I'm not lying. Like, this, how many times did we wipe to this mechanic? How many times did I F up? It's all here. You know, like, yeah. It's nice when you know that there's evidence of you, like, you can't make anything up. You can't be wrong because there's evidence that can relate back to you. So it's nice. It keeps me honest, I think. It's great.
It's also good as a tool, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I will like completely tunnel vision and completely screw up, and chat will be like, Miz, you're in cleric stance. What are you doing healing? Or, you know, like you have that extra set of eyeballs, I guess, that are keeping you on your toes sometimes. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. People have given me very good advice in while streaming. It's like, yeah. And of course, it's like you said, if there's a lot of chat going on, I tend to just, if I need to focus on my group or what's going on in raid, I just ignore them, and I feel bad because somebody will ask a question like an hour ago. It's like it's a question I would have loved to answer, and I'm like, I don't know if you're still here, but here's the answer to the question.
But I think they understand when you're in the middle of a really intense fight. Like, it's so hard to reach out. Like, it is so hard.
Yeah, I hope so.
And I've been trying to stream PvP when I can, and I that's a huge part, is when I'm streaming this. People are watching me make my mistakes, and I make so many mistakes in PvP with people who actually know what they're talking about, and I feel like that's a lot of fun to go out there and get that help from the chat. But the other fact to that is, like, and this only happens in PvP, so I can't really relate it to raiding, is that there are people who say, that is Frosty. I know that person. I'm going to kill him as hard as I can. I'm going to make sure that I destroy him on his stream, and I don't mind that. That's fine. I mean, if it works for a strategy, then it works in the end. But I think the whole Twitch interaction between people playing the game has been really great for me, and I wouldn't take it away. I can't imagine taking that away. Even when I'm rating, I feel like I'm not on the top tier progression, so I'm not really in that group of people that it really would affect negatively. So, anyways, going to the next question. Sorry, I just had to go on to that little tangent there. What's the funniest moment? This is from Toybot. What's the funniest moment you've ever had while raiding with your group? Is there something that just completely stands out? And Ark, I'll let you answer first, and Mizzteq can think on it.
Say that again. Sorry.
The funniest moment. The funniest moment. So like something that happened, you're just like, what the heck? Or are you too serious, Ark? You don't have funny moments.
Well,
no fun allowed.
Yeah, I am very, very like level-headed and literal, so it's sometimes
It's hard
yes,
to think.
I can come across as that. I'm just trying to think if people are okay with some of the examples. I think maybe Mizzteq can go first.
Okay, Mizzteq, you'll go first then.
Yeah, first.
Okay. There's a video on YouTube called Turn 9 Bloopers that pretty much is probably the funniest things, or actually even Titan bloopers, I think. The funniest thing I can remember, this is like 2 years ago. So Titan Extreme, you know how the platform would like shrink each time? So he'd, we had someone die, and our summoner, who, I don't know if he's here, my good friend Katz he was trying to he was trying to res this person that had died, but he was standing on the side of the platform that was about to fall, and in that moment, everyone on TeamSpeak is just like, oh my god, Cass, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then you just see him like drop off the platform as he's trying to res. And that in my mind, I think has been like the funniest. It's one of those you had to be there moments.
Right.
But I don't know. It's so hard to pick moments that actually stand out. I think a lot of the times we just have like a lot of like giggly nights where literally everything is the funniest thing ever. And those nights are like a good balance to the really intense, tense nights. But I can't think aside from that, like anything that's like a specific time, I guess. I don't know.
There's been weird things, I think, in raids that were like, oh, that threw me off. And that was really funny that happened. Like, for example, in A7, where you'd have 2 A7 bosses out because it would glitch out graphically, I think, when I was doing it. Like, someone wiped, and it was just really weird. Or there's other times where people just auto-run into a boss, and, you know, no one's mad. They're just happy. It's like, whatever, this is funny. And then other times where someone gets prey every single time in A5, no matter who it is. It's always a melee, right? So always our monk will get, we'll call it out, hey, he's going to get it before it happens. And yeah, and he gets it. And, you know, that's hilarious. I can't think of anything that's just like, holy crap, this was the funniest thing. Nothing's ever going to top this ever in my raiding life. Ark, did you think of anything, man?
I was just going to say, like, recently, like, one thing that just, like, made me crack out laughing while, like, even doing a fight, like, our A7S on this Wednesday, for some reason our tank wasn't able to pick up like a target, and our summoner got pulled into the tank jail, and they fixed it so you can't line of sight the tank jail anymore, right? So he's just like, what do I do in here? Like, what do I do exactly? It's like, well, you're probably gonna die from the first attack, but you just have to kill it really quickly if you can or something. And then like she gets out of it like with 1,000 HP somehow. We're like, I didn't think you could do that anymore with the tank jail ever since the change. I was just like laughing because like we were just ready to wipe it, and we just all kind of gave up too, and just she managed to
Never
get out of the
give
tank
up,
jail.
man. Never surrender.
Apparently, I really didn't think you could do that anymore.
Yeah.
I was really shocked.
We've come back from the
Yeah.
weirdest situations where everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh, I thought we were wiping, and then somehow, even with everyone being confused and just stopping playing, we just get everybody back up and going after like, I don't know, 30 seconds, and we clear it, and it's weird. So yeah, I always try to force it out, unless if I'm the only one alive, then I'm like, whatever, I'm going to run around and just screw with you guys. I don't care, we're waiting on cooldowns anyways. All right, so we got 2 more questions here. Not very serious questions, but we might as well knock them out here. And I'm not going to take any more questions, guys. This is the last of them. Dude, it's Antonio wants to know what your favorite pizza topping is.
Cheese.
Cheese that is boring as you could.
Well, you can't have pizza without cheese, so obviously I eat it the most often, therefore my favorite.
Okay.
I don't know.
I feel like you cheated on that
I
answer.
feel like you
did.
kind of
How
cheated
How
on that
about
answer, but
other than cheese? Other than cheese.
Okay.
say pineapples.
Sometimes I have to be in the mood for pineapple.
Okay.
Man, I don't know. I'm really bad with what's your favorite X question because I can't pick.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Everything? I don't know. Whatever I feel like eating at the time is what my favorite topping is.
All right. What's your favorite pizza topping, man?
Green olives.
Green olives.
Oh,
Those
I
are
love
good.
green olives too. I
Okay.
usually on whatever type of pizza, I'll add green olives. So yes, that's a good answer.
There you go.
I like just eating green olives by themselves. I don't.
Me
I do
too.
that. I have definitely served myself a bowl of green olives and just eaten them.
Yeah.
Yep,
All right,
they're
cool.
delicious.
Olive lovers here. Good.
Yep.
I would say pepperoni, just because I don't know why, but that's the only time I eat pepperoni.
That's
when else do I
cheese
eat
too, by the
pepperoni,
way.
That
right?
sounds like a cheese answer.
Okay, that's
That's
it's
the answer, yeah.
kind of a cheese answer, but if I had to go back to it, I would still say I'd rather have a pepperoni pizza. But maybe it's just Costco if they're super greasy pepperoni pizzas that are just so great. But okay, Solo 9, this is for Mizzteq. Where is Pasta? And is she ready for her close-up? So if you wanted to give her a close-up, you totally could, but I don't know if
All right,
she's
here we go.
bad.
You ready?
Yep, ready.
Oh no, my webcam thing is not long enough. Hold on, you might be able to see it. Ready?
Ready?
There she is. She's on
Okay.
my floor.
I can kind of see half of her.
I can't.
There we go,
Is that
there we
better?
go, there we go.
There she is. She's sleeping right next to my desk.
That's perfect. She's not like clawing at your feet anymore. She's just kind of hanging out.
No, she has these moments of like extreme attention seeking, and then she just goes to sleep.
Okay. Is how old is Pasta again?
We're not sure. I think she's like maybe 2 years now, maybe something. I don't
Almost
know.
as long as your stream? Maybe?
She's probably a year. I've only been streaming for a year and a bit, like a year and a half, so she's probably
Okay.
2 years by now. Yeah, because we got her maybe like 6 to 8 months before I started streaming, I think.
Okay.
Maybe even a year before I started streaming. I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But we had no idea how old she was when we got her, so
Did you just kind of, was it like an adoption center? Okay.
yeah, and they thought she was like 6 weeks or something. I don't know.
They just made the best. Yeah, that's
They
fair.
just guessed, yep.
Yeah. All right. I feel like that's actually really good for the show today. We've talked about a lot of different things, and it's been like about 2.5 hours now. I hope
Good,
that's not
yeah.
like too long for you guys.
Love it.
I
Time
loved it though.
flies.
It does,
Yeah.
especially when you're just like talking about stuff that you're invested in and you're actually interested in talking about. So before we leave, I do want to do my shout outs, of course. Thank you, Mizzteq, and thank you, Ark, so much for being on the show. You guys have been excellent guests.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And so let me give you your time here, Ark, to do all the shout outs that you want to do to anyone.
Yeah, once again, just shout out to like everyone from my group and Static who came to support me here, and yeah, looking forward to doing some more EAS clears.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Ms.
Thank you to everyone who is watching, and Frosty for putting all this together, and Ark for being here and offering your insight. I don't know. This is really cheesy.
Jeez.
Uh,
Your favorite pizza topping.
Shout out to everyone.
Thank you to Pasta. I don't know. I really enjoyed this. This is a lot of fun, and yeah, you do a good job, Frosty.
Oh, well, thank
done.
you.
Yeah.
I
Shout
really
out to
appreciate
Frosty. Shout out to Frosty.
it.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't need shout outs, man. But anyways, we'll get past all that
He's too
cheesy
big.
stuff.
He's too big, right? He doesn't need them.
I don't need them. I'm too big. I'm too popular, guys. I'm like the biggest guy in the streaming Twitch community.
I think you need to do an entire podcast in that voice.
Oh, okay. Let's go. Next thing here.
The next Halloween special here.
Oh gosh. Let's skip past that existing. So thank you everybody for watching the show. I really appreciate everybody coming to see us today, and thank you for the people who did participate in the Reddit post that we put up last week, just asking people about things that they wanted to talk about with raids in general, because that helped form the show today. Thank you very much for Kerr for collecting all the questions and keeping chat in check. Kappa, I think I kind of don't think. I think it was a little bit over exaggerated with all that stuff. I don't think she really banned that many people, and the people that did get banned might have been sniped by somebody else. I don't know, but thank you very much for keeping it in order, like always. Thank you, Blizzana, for the artwork. Thank you, Tari, for the music at the very beginning of the show. Next week, MogTalk is not really going to be planned right now, because I'm dealing with a situation with work where I might not be able to make a show next week. But if we do, it's possible it's going to be Ark returning again. Maybe we'll get Balana on here and we'll talk about A7S.
Sure.
And we'll just have a great video by video show about A7S. But if not, then I'll let everybody know. Follow me on Twitter if you guys want to get those updates. I usually update on Twitter when these things are happening. You can tell how wonderfully updated my schedule is on Twitch, because today's apparently 2 shows ago. But let's see, we need to host somebody, and as tradition, I need you guys to choose who we're going to host. And Mizzteq, since you've never, I don't know if you've ever chosen somebody for us to host, so I'm kind of going to put it all on you, because Ark's had a lot of people that he's
Oh
chosen.
God, how do I choose?
Whoever you think needs a host. or wants a host, or just whoever deserves it. Whatever you think.
Let's see. I don't know. Now the pressure's on.
Yeah, the pressure's here. Come on, what are you doing?
I don't know. How do I choose? I don't know how to choose. I feel like there's like people I know, and if I choose them, it's like preferential treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should just do someone random. I don't know, man. I don't know.
You could do it. If you want to do
really
someone
can't
random,
choose.
you have an RNG thing you just throw up, right?
An RNG thing?
Yeah, RNG simulator, and you just choose whoever. You know what?
How about we have some suggestions from chat?
We can take suggestions from chat. I have an idea of someone I would want to host.
Okay, tell me.
And I think this is someone that Mizzteq would probably want to host as well.
Okay.
It's Faros.
Yay! I was thinking that's what I meant. I was like, I can't say Faros because he's my friend, and that's such like a scumbag move.
He hasn't played in a long
it's
time.
fine. Yeah, exactly.
And he's playing Final Fantasy, so
Yeah,
that's why I was like, oh man, that'd be sweet. But
Yeah.
yes, if you don't mind, then go for it.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think Faros is a good choice.
Definitely. He has a really good attitude, and I think you guys should check him out.
He's great.
I don't know if he's just trying again for the first time right now, Final Fantasy, because it's been a long time, but maybe he's hanging out. It's worth watching. So anyways, guys, thank you again for watching. Let's do our awkward waving goodbye, everybody. Come on, Mizzteq, what are you doing? Come on.
Wrist, elbow, wrist.
What is that?
Yeah,
Never
it's a
mind.
thing. It's like how royalty waves or something. Not that I would know, but.
You would know. All right, so let's go back to this intro screen here.